A near-total abortion ban with prison time for providers. I'm Chris Foster, Fox News. Oklahoma's legislature passes a bill making abortion illegal except to save the mother's life.
Under the proposed law, which has passed Oklahoma's House and Senate, abortion providers could face felony charges punishable by up to 10 years in prison or a $100,000 fine for performing the procedure. Groups like the ACLU of Oklahoma and Oklahoma Call for Reproductive Justice warn women could be left without any place to seek what they're calling basic health care in their state. The state's Republican governor, Kevin Stitt, has vowed to sign, quote, every piece of pro-life legislation that comes to his desk. Sean Langell, Fox News.
Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky says Russian missiles hit a fuel depot overnight and accuses Russia of using hunger as a weapon by hitting ports and food storage facilities.
It should be held responsible for everything they have done in the Ukrainian soil. They have come to Ukraine as a colonizing army.
President Zelensky there speaking remotely to Ireland's parliament. A mass murderer known as the I-65 killer now has a name.
Indiana State Police and the FBI, through investigative genealogy, say they've identified Harry Edward Greenwell, who they say killed Vicki Heath, Mary Gill, and Jeannie Gilbert along Indiana's I-65 corridor in the late 1980s. Gilbert's daughter, Kim.
We'll never learn any of the whys of his actions, and that's just where we sit today. Closure will also take on its own different and unique face for all of us.
Greenwell, a career criminal, died in 2013, and investigators say he's been linked to at least 2 sexual assaults, in which DNA led to him 33 years later.
Fox's Jeff Manasso. The Biden administration is extending a moratorium on federal student loan repayments through the end of August. The pause started in March 2020 at the start of the coronavirus pandemic. America's listening to Fox News.
Economists are warning that sanctions against Russia could cause unintended damage in America, triggering devastating inflation. As gas prices skyrocket, prices for everything could surge even higher, making the current 40-year record inflation look mild. Hi, this is Stephen K. Bannon, and I urge you to take immediate action to protect your savings by opening a physical gold IRA with my friends at Birch Gold. I'm Birch Gold customer myself, and they have my highest recommendation. Just text the word PROTECT to 989898, and they'll send you a free info kit on how to get started. In my opinion, gold IRAs are one of the best ways to protect your savings no matter what happens in America or around the world. And the best company to work with is Birch Gold. So text the word PROTECT to 989898 to get everything you need to know about protecting your savings with gold.
93.9 The Eagle News Time with Robinson's Cleaners. Robinson saves you time. It is 6:03 right now. We finally are starting to see some clearing skies. Unusual weather yesterday. We actually had natural cover fires because of the apparent lack of rain, and then in less than an hour, heavy downpours reported and possibly a tornado in Cooper County. It was that kind of a day yesterday. 43 right now in Columbia. It's 42 degrees in Jefferson City. Good morning, everyone. Here's some of the stories that we are working on for you on this Wednesday morning. We begin with the weather as residents in the small farming community of Billingsville say last night's storm blew power lines down near Billingsville and also in the Pilot Grove area. Cooper County emergency management officials tell 93.9 The Eagle there is also roof damage in Pilot Grove. Now, one of those listeners is telling us that he believes it was a tornado. However, National Weather Service Kansas City meteorologist Jared Layton tells 93.9 The Eagle the NWS has not determined if it was a tornado. There are no reports right now of injuries at this time. A lot of you have weighed in and sent photos on our Facebook page, 93.9 The Eagle Facebook, and several of you believe it was a tornado. But again, it is not confirmed right now whether it was a tornado or straight line winds. They have to wait for daylight and send some personnel to the scene, likely the EMA there in Cooper County. Meantime, Columbia's mayor-elect campaigning on a platform that included Columbia having a 24/7 shelter that provides basic daily needs and services to lift people out of homelessness. Former city sustainability manager Barbara Buffalo beating businessman Randy Minshew and 3 other candidates on Tuesday. She's also called for serving housing needs for people across the disability income spectrum. She'll be sworn in this month, replacing the outgoing Mayor Brian Treese. It'll be at least Friday before we know who won Columbia's hotly contested Third Ward Council race. Longtime incumbent Carl Scallon, challenger Roy Lovelady, each receiving 1,102 votes on Tuesday. Boone County Clerk Brianna Lennon tells 93.9 The Eagle military votes are due by Friday. Her office will also do the provisional balloting during the certification. That is normal. In the Fourth Ward, Nick Foster beating Erica Pefferman. That vote 3564 to 2,142. Use tax in Columbia and Boone County has been approved in both the city and the county. Voters in CPS giving the green light to an $80 million bond issue. It will fund construction of 2 new elementary schools. The bond issue will fund a $25 million new elementary on the John Warner Middle School property and $28 million for land and a new future elementary school in a location yet to be determined. CPS Superintendent Dr. Brian Yearwood tells the Eagle he is elated.
Parents want to bring their scholars to our school district, and we want to welcome them and allow them to be in spaces where they are not feeling overcrowded or crammed into hallways and things like that.
The bond issue will also fund a $15 million addition at the Columbia Area Career Center. He says growth is the main reason behind the bond issue. CPS is now Missouri's 5th largest district, 18,500 students. Southern Boone R1 district officials say that due to possible supply shortages, they hope to bid construction in December of a $3 million bond issue approved by district voters on Tuesday. Southern Boone R1 voters overwhelmingly approving a bond issue to provide funding to repair and improve aging outdoor facilities at the high school. And a parolee charged with murder for a January overdose death in Moberly has been in and out of prison in the past decade. He's back in prison once again. His parole has been revoked. His name is Dustin Poole. He's 41, lives in Moberly. He's now back in the penitentiary in Fulton, charged with second-degree murder. Much more on his charges coming up at the bottom of the hour. Our news is brought to you this hour by AirServe Heating and Air Conditioning, airserve.com. 93.9 The Eagle News Time, 6:07. Turning our attention now to sports. It was a short spring training season, if you will, because of the labor issues between the players and the owners in Major League Baseball. So not a lot of games that you normally see in spring training. Nonetheless, that is now over. Today is a travel day, a day to get ready, and the regular season 2022 will begin tomorrow. Expect very good in terms of sunshine. You'll at least see that, and no rain, but it's going to be cold tomorrow if you're going to Busch Stadium. Our high will only be in the mid-50s, and then by the latter part of that game, it's going to be probably even cooler than that. 3:15 first pitch, and we'll have it for you right here tomorrow on 93.9 The Eagle. Our sports is also brought to you by AirServe Heating and Air Conditioning. Our news time, 6:07. All right, Kevin, thanks so much. Right now we do have clear skies, partly clear, we should say, 44. Traffic check, midmohires.com. Local companies are looking for local people. Midmohires.com. Find a job or post your job opening today. Our time right now is 6:08. I want to thank everyone for calling us yesterday evening during our live severe weather coverage. Cosmo and I hosting here on our program. Appreciate all the calls. Several of you are saying that power lines are down in the Pilot Grove in Billingsville area. If you have any other information, please let us know. We can pass that along to the Weather Service, because they really don't have a whole lot more than what we have, and also what they were able to get last night because it was so dark. They can't send people back out there until daybreak. If you see some other damage, let us know. Road damage as well. More team coverage in less than 30 minutes. Breaking news immediately. I'm Brian Hauswirth, 93.9 The Eagle.
Barbara Buffalo wins over Randy Minshew, David Seaman, and Tanya Heath.
Lucas Geisler calling it last night on ABC 17. Barbara Buffalo wins. Big story. Two big stories, I think. Number one, voter turnout. Wow. Brianna, Lennon, Boone County Clerk owes me 2 steak dinners.
Did she actually take you up on that bet, or did you just propose the bet?
I just put it out there and said, "Here's the bet," and so I'm gonna try to collect on it. We'll see how that goes. The other big thing, Ward 3. Somebody put it very eloquently last night. So I'm at this victory party that turned out to be a watch party. It did not end up being a victory party for Randy Minshew. But somebody said, can you imagine? Because I pushed for Roy Lovelady. I think, and this guy, Roy Lovelady, by the way, he's a black gay hairdresser. That's some context to this guy, and he's a lovely individual. Yesterday I was talking to him like, hey, Roy, where are you doing your victory party? And here's what he tells me. He says, oh, it's my niece's birthday. I'm going to be at her house celebrating her. I'm not doing a victory party. And I'm like, wow. But that's the big story. Tied. Just a little over 1,100 votes apiece. 1,102 to be exact. Roy Lovelady, Carl Scala. Carl Scala, did he get out-woke by an even woker candidate? So now the big thing, people are going, okay, so what happens next? We're in a dead heat right now. What do we do?
And we don't know. That's a great point. Here's what we do know, because a lot of this is uncharted territory. What we do know from talking to Brianna Lennon last night multiple times, Branden, is that, first of all, the military votes are going to be due on Friday at noon, the military votes, and we don't know how many of those are actually going to come in. And then we also have the normal, what we call provisional ballots during the certification. I will tell you that the turnout, at least I live in the 3rd Ward, the precinct I live in, the turnout was light yesterday compared to, I was baffled when we kept getting on these reports of heavy turnout. Keep in mind there's a lot of students that live in the 3rd Ward, and people may be out of town, but where I was, it was only about 7%, and it's obviously 24%. So the
maybe Friday we might know something.
I don't know that we'll know by Friday. I'd be really surprised if we know by Friday. We may not know until August.
So then the other thing that happens, okay, so then let's say when these military provisional ballots are counted, posted on Friday, what if it's tied again? Do Carl and Roy, are they going to have to arm wrestle or something?
I'm thinking it's probably going to end up being, and this is, again, looking at the city charter, I can't find a specific, and Chuck Hatfield, who I respect immensely, keeps throwing out this state statute. I love Chuck to death and have a lot of respect for him. I'm not sure the statute he's citing applies to this race. It very well may, but the city charter is quirky. I think this probably will end up going back to another election. That's just my gut feeling. Michael Trapp
for the same two folks.
It would be, but we'll see. Stephanie, I don't know if you want to. Michael Trapp has said it would probably be in August. Now that's assuming they're still tied after the military votes and after the
Michael Trapp, former city councilman.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't done the research on which offices this applies to. I do know, so it's section 115.517, and it talks about tie votes. And usually you get 2 options. It's a revote, it's a special election.
Do-over.
Or it's a lottery, basically. By lot, you draw straws. And I will say, it's happened before. It happened right when I moved to Southern Boone. There was a tie vote, we get tie votes when in smaller communities where the vote total's lower. And they chose to draw straws. And I think I had either just moved there or I was in the process of moving there, and I thought, that's wonderful. Rather than going through the expense of another election, the 2 candidates agreed, you know what, we're more concerned about the kids than about our own egos. And they did. They just drew straws and somebody won.
That's true, but the candidates would have the right to request, and they don't have to do the lot. They could request I'm baffled about August, but it wouldn't be any special cost to the city if it's already going to be an election. So that's, I think,
correct,
why they would wait.
Yeah.
And again, that statute, I've read it. It very well could apply. I just can't find anything, quite frankly, in the charter that would apply. But the charter should the charter does have a lot of various quirky provisions. I just am not seeing anything like this.
Carl Scala called you out last night on ABC 17. Also, what Barbara Buffalo had to say about her opponents in the mayoral race coming up. But I do, a couple of years ago, Holt's son, I think like 2 or 3 years ago, there was a tie, I think, for the Board of Aldermen. Both candidates had like 35 votes, and they did a coin toss. They said, hey, there's a meeting, special meeting, 6 o'clock Tuesday. Everybody show up and watch the toss, the coin toss.
I like it. I mean, I think that's great.
Okay, Carl Scala calling out Brian Hauswirth last night while he was hanging out with ABC 17.
And I'm sure the press in this town, it's a very responsible and active press.
Is that a troll, Hannah? Or am I reading too much into that?
It's almost a subtweet, wouldn't you say, Steph?
I think so.
It's a very active media in this town. This yesterday, after we were highlighting how Carl Scala brought up the big problem in the city council as it relates to trash collection, he said it himself in the meeting the other night. He says, I was here in 2014 and 2016 when we've been talking about this stuff. Yeah, you're the common denominator here, Carl. You've been through all this. So maybe after hearing all that yesterday, maybe that was a little dig at 93.9 The Eagle.
I was going to say, maybe he's heard that you've been, picking on him for liking pickleball.
Oh, it's all good. And I think clearly on the context on that, I think what he's saying there is that we have two papers, and we do in a couple of radio stations.
And we have Brian Hauswirth. Don't sell
and
yourself.
Television.
Sure.
Well, and I appreciate that. But it is just, in this town gets a lot of press for, and does give a lot of press to the council, but it's just... I've just never seen anything quite like it. Now, Ted Farnan gives an example. There was one tie in 1982, but I believe it applied to a committee person.
Ted Farnan's done a lot over the years, very involved in the Democrat Party here locally. More from Carl Scala last night.
Will answer some of those questions for us. So I don't know whether we're in for a recount or just a resolution with respect to the final count on the ballot or so on. That remains to be seen.
So we'll see. Brianna, Lennon, by the way, we've reached out to everybody, Barbara Buffalo and Nick Foster, some of the other winners yesterday. Barbara Buffalo, everybody was partying until the wee hours of the night last night. Like, man, I was out till like 9:30, almost 10 o'clock, man.
That is past your radio bedtime. That's what I tell people. I'm like, that is past my radio bedtime.
But I would not call that the wee hours.
Man, I was living it up. I was drinking Sprite and hanging out, and it got to be like 9:30. I'm like, man, the sun's coming up in a few hours. I gotta race home. Barbara Buffalo. So she is going to be the new Columbia mayor, new mayor in Ashland, too.
Yeah, we have Doris Slinker was elected. We had 3 people in the race, and he won by quite a bit. And I currently serve with him. He's an alderman. He's been an alderman for a while. He works really hard, and I know he worked really hard for this. And so we're hoping maybe we can talk to him later this morning.
Since you were the mayor of Ashland yesterday, how does it feel to relinquish this to political newcomer?
I want to thank everyone for hanging with me last night. And actually, it was kind of an exciting meeting because everyone's phone, like the tornado siren, started going off. And I'm like looking at, and we have a brand new city administrator. I said, do we have like a policy or a protocol about whether or not we're supposed to like keep moving or not?
Yeah, pretty rude of Mother Nature to interrupt, post-election stuff.
And I want to brag on 93.9 The Eagle and Brian Hauswirth and our friend Cosmo from Y107 who were facilitating great weather coverage last night, especially for western portions of the listening area that got some nasty weather. Brian Hauswirth this morning working on determining whether or not it was just big storms. Was there a slight tornado? One of the things we are working on. Barbara Buffalo, mayor-elect in Columbia, and I think only the second female ever in the city of Columbia. Here's what she had to say last night about the other candidates in the race.
The other candidates in this race, we have run a clean campaign. All 4 times. It's been an honor to serve with them, to go through this very interesting process, especially as a non-political candidate in any other regard. So it was really great to go through with them, and I hope to lead, regardless of whoever anybody voted for, I will still listen to everybody.
So Barbara Buffalo wins the mayoral race. By the way, we have to remember, we live in Columbia, Missouri. So we talk about, well, we support these candidates, the conservative candidates for the school board. By the way, disappointed to see that neither Andrea Lisenby nor Adam Burks. You know what stunned me on that voter turnout? Suzette Waters. She got more votes than the incumbent Blake Willoughby. So you get more of the same with Blake Willoughby. You get Suzette Waters, who is not my personal choice. She'd make a great PTA president, but just on the school board, it's not good for us and us smart people that are concerned about our kids. That's not good at all. Third ward race tied. Fourth ward council, Nick Foster beats Erica Pefferman. That's the seat currently held by Ian Thomas. As expected, the school bond issue and that internet use tax in Columbia, they passed. I almost felt I voted no on the school bond thing, and I'm sick. And listen, that's hard. I had some great conversations last night. Kip Kendrick, former state representative who's running for Boone County presiding commissioner, joined us at the Randy Minshew party last night. But we were talking about some of these voter turnouts and some of the candidates, and how a lot of these people, they would be good. They want to do good for the community. It's just, I don't think elected office is the way to do that. Surprised by totals in the school board race. I think the Nick Foster win in the fourth ward, that was no surprise. Randy Minshew, by the way, lost out only 800 votes. The big story, voter turnout. Now, there were a lot of things going on. You had towns like Hallsville. There were issues in Ashland. Obviously, several issues in Columbia, not just the school board race. You had a couple of those tax use issues. A couple of weeks ago, Brianna Lennon, Boone County Clerk, was saying 10%. And then she upped it to 12, and then she told us 15, and then yesterday almost 24%. So that's a big thing, yeah. And one of the things I want to do, depending on where we are this morning, Brianna Lennon, Boone County Clerk, is trying to come on, but she's, kind of busy this morning. We had an election yesterday in Boone County that she ran, and we also have a tie vote. The people scrambling, trying to figure out what do we do in this third ward race. So we are trying to get her on this morning, but we are mindful of her schedule. Coming up a little bit later this morning, I do want to look at the promising thing about the number of people that voted in the school board race compared to last year. I mean, you look at not just the percentages, but the pure number of people. Coming up, 626 Daily DC Rundown. What do you have for us this morning, Stephanie?
Well, we're waiting for a decision in our own city in Ward 3, but there are other races around the country where we won't know the answer today, and maybe not this week.
Some interesting things. Steph's going to get you some answers.
Catch Wake Up Columbia on demand, anytime, all the time at 939theeagle.com.
George, the president is confident that his family did the right thing. But again, I want to just be really clear. These are actions by Hunter and his brother. They're private matters. They don't involve the president, and they certainly are something that no one at the White House is involved in.
White House Chief of Staff Ron Klain recently with George Stephanopoulos. George Stephanopoulos saying, hey, you guys worried about the Hunter Biden laptop? Because it's not about the hookers and the blow on there. It's about his dealings with other countries, leveraging the big guy's name recognition to benefit him. That's important. So, Ron Klain, so the White House, it sounds to me like they're starting to hey, that's Hunter's deal.
Nothing to see here.
Exactly. Or hey, nothing to see. There's nothing on the laptop. They're not even saying there's nothing on the laptop anymore. They're saying that's Hunter's deal. That's got nothing to do with us. Bull. If the president is mentioned in a lot of this stuff, that's part of what's getting us into today's Daily DC Rundown with Stephanie Bell.
So, Hunter Biden laptop, not a lot of good news for the Biden administration right now. And so they needed a morale boost, which is why apparently Barack Obama was in town yesterday. That's what it says. It says that that Obama was hopeful it would be a morale boost. Can you imagine being Barack Obama and watching what's happening right now? I mean, you have to be, even though you're in the same party, you have to be really disappointed. So they had a 4-hour lunch yesterday, I guess. And Obama was, greeting people and trying to, say, hey, things aren't as bad, I think, as they really are. And I think in his mind, he knows what's coming in the midterms. If you're Obama, you're thinking, don't do this to me, Joe. And we got to get something going. And so they're celebrating the 12th anniversary of Obamacare. And because Joe doesn't have any wins, I think they're hoping, hey, check this out. Remember, we can do good stuff too.
I think it was more of a campaign visit.
Right.
Two things. There's video out there of Joe Biden at this big event yesterday with Barack Obama. And I kid you not, you can go search it for yourself, but nobody's paying attention to Joe. They're all talking to Obama, and you're ever at a big gathering and you're on the outside against the wall.
That's worse. That's the worst.
Yeah, and that's what it was like for Joe yesterday. By the way, Obama told a great joke about Joe yesterday that I'm like, ooh, hear that coming up at 6:35.
We've also got other elections we aren't sure who is going to win, and I think it's interesting because as we talk about the way we change elections in Missouri, in California they're replacing a congressman and they've got to do a runoff. And they know the first person in the runoff, but the second runoff, they won't know until, for a while. Mail-in ballots can come in as late as April 12th. So they're like, well, we know one guy, but it's going to be a while. And, that's the impact of doing mail-in balloting.
All right, coming up, Brian Hauswirth has all the election results from Boone County. Then at 6:35, hear the joke that Barack Obama told about Joe Biden yesterday. I was a little uncomfortable. It was funny. That's coming up at 6:35.
Fox News, I'm Lillian Wu. Western governments getting ready to beef up sanctions against Russia for its invasion, which the Ukrainian president calls a campaign of murders, rapes, and destruction of his country.
Appearing before the UN Security Council Tuesday, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky issued a stark warning that there are more places suffering similar horrors like those in Bucha. Zelensky also stressed that the Russian military must be brought to justice for war crimes like the Nazis were after World War II.
Fox's Griff Jenkins in Lviv. Arizona set to resume executions.
The Arizona Supreme Court has issued a death warrant for convicted killer Clarence Dixon and set his execution date for 5 weeks from today. His would be Arizona's first execution since July of 2014, when it took more than 2 hours and 15 doses of lethal injection drugs to put Joseph Wood to death.
Fox's Jack Callahan. America's listening to Fox News.
And now award-winning local news coverage with Brian Hauswirth on 93.9 The Eagle.
93.9 The Eagle News Time with Robinson's Cleaners. Robinson saves you time. It is 6:31 right now. We do have partly cloudy skies We continue to try to dry out today, but there is a chance of rain. 43 here in Columbia. It's 42 degrees in Jefferson City. Good morning, everyone. Here's some of the stories that we are working on for you on this busy Wednesday morning. A parolee is back in prison today, now charged with murder for a deadly overdose in January in Moberly.
Moberly police say 41-year-old Dustin Poole is charged in Randolph County with second-degree murder. Moberly police say the unidentified victim died from an overdose of fentanyl that was allegedly supplied by Poole. 93.9 The Eagle has reviewed Poole's criminal record, and we found that he's been in and out of prison since 2011. Missouri's Probation and Parole Board has revoked Poole's parole, and he's now incarcerated in Fulton, where he will have to finish his current 7-year sentence for drugs. Don Luzader, 93.9 The Eagle.
Meantime, residents in the small farming community of Billingsville say last night's storm blew power lines down near Pilot Grove and Billingsville. There's also roof damage in Pilot Grove. That, according to Cooper County EMA officials. The National Weather Service tells 93.9 The Eagle the NWS has not been able to determine yet if it was a tornado. Columbia's mayor-elect campaigning on a platform that included Columbia having a 24/7 shelter that provides basic daily needs and service to lift people out of homelessness. Former city sustainability manager Barbara Buffalo beating businessman Randy Minshew and 3 other candidates in Tuesday's election. Voters in CPS overwhelmingly approving an $80 million bond issue that will fund construction of a new $25 million elementary school in South Columbia. That's a big priority for the superintendent, Dr. Brian Yearwood. Also, similar bond issues in Centralia passing, Harrisburg passing as well. Southern Boone R1, their $3 million bond issue has been approved by the voters as well. News brought to you this hour by Mid-America Mortgage. Check them out online, midamericamortgage.us. 93.9 The Eagle News Time, 6:33. In sports, Cardinal baseball, the Cardinals have finished spring training, and today is a day to get ready because the regular season is going to begin tomorrow for 2022. Opening day is always a big day in St. Louis. A lot of Hall of Famers expected to be there. Weather, though, it's going to be cold. At least it won't be raining tomorrow, but we'll be lucky to get into the mid-upper 40s tomorrow for a high in the afternoon. If that game goes late into the afternoon, which it probably will, 3:15 start or early evening, it'll definitely continue to drop. So if you're going tomorrow, make sure you bundle up and have a coat. Cardinals and the Pirates, the Pittsburgh Pirates, the opponent tomorrow over at Busch, 3:15 the first pitch. You'll hear it live right here on 93.9 The Eagle. Tomorrow, Adam Wainwright on the hill for St. Louis. Sports brought to you by the Better Business Bureau. Start online with the Better Business Bureau, bbb.org. 93.9 The Eagle News Time, 6:34. Traffic check with MidmoHires.com. Local companies are looking for local people. MidmoHires.com. Find a job or post your job opening today. Roads have been pretty quiet here in mid-Missouri, and again, we appreciate all the great calls during our live storm coverage yesterday up and down the interstate and in Cooper County. Thank you so much for that. We're still working to determine if that was a tornado, and we may not know that for a while because it's going to take some work from the National Weather Service. Either way, there is some damage, no deaths to report. More team coverage in less than 30 minutes. We have breaking news immediately. I'm Brian Hauswirth, 93.9 The Eagle.
Randy Minshew. Gonna listen to 93.9. Brandon, Stephanie, Brian, Hannah, and whoever else rhymes with 93.9. Randy Minshew.
By the way, last night, victory party, Randy Minshew had this song from Wake Up Columbia.
Randy Minshew.
93.9 The Eagle.
Go vote today.
You ready to play it, man? Didn't happen, and that bums me out. Lost by only 800 votes, by the way. One of the big stories, I think, voter turnout yesterday. So I'm bummed personally that Randy Minshew did not win. Barbara Buffalo, she'll be a fine mayor. But think about this. You look at, seriously, the Columbia City Council. This is real, and I'm not dissing anybody here. It's their mindset. Columbia City Council, regardless of who wins right now in this third ward race, which is tied between Roy Lovelady and Carl Scala, this will be the most progressive council that we have ever had, because Scala is one of the most progressive, and that's not a compliment, by the way, one of the most progressive, misinformed people who thinks his doesn't stink and likes to talk over people's heads, whether it's him or Roy. And now we have this Mayor Barbara Buffalo. This is the most serious, most progressive our city is going to be, in effect, run. And the mayor is seriously, the mayor bangs the gavel and you have another elected official within the city. You have 2 council people in the city of Columbia, and that person gets to vote. Barbara Buffalo gets to vote on this stuff. We have really Matt Pitzer to an extent, Barbara Peters.
Yeah, covering the council, and you and I have covered it extensively. It is the most progressive council that I can recall. We will see what happens. A lot of the stuff that does come up to the council, though, Branden, is not ideological. A lot of it is, but we'll see what happens. And again, turnout huge. I think that letter that went out from some of the folks that sent the letter out to a couple of the candidates wanting them to perhaps drop out, worried that it was going to split the progressive vote. Really, that did not happen. That really did not happen. But it really essentially was a 2-person race, and Randy Minshew was close. I mean, he, like you said, 700-800 votes there. After that, it really drops off. So we'll see. But the mayor also, it's more of it's kind of, I shouldn't say a bully pulpit, but it's a platform, so obviously she'll be able to focus on her priorities. The big thing, if you've listened closely and you have, that definitely she is really prioritized, and it's probably her top priority, is this idea of a 24/7 homeless shelter, and she's looking to the Welcome Inn as kind of an example. So we'll see if that they'll almost certainly have to tap into ARPA money to do that, though.
And by the way, the margin for Barbara Buffalo, she won by about 800 votes over Randy Minshew. So if there is a positive, you had almost 8,000 conservative, smart-minded people that showed up to the polls yesterday in the city of Columbia and voted for Randy Minshew. There's a positive. I want to highlight it. By the way, last night at Randy Minshew's party, Stephanie and Hannah, I talked to a lot of people who are mad at the both of you.
What? About what?
So a lot of times, I'll say, hey, and this is coming up, we're going to play. Obama told a joke about Joe Biden yesterday with Joe Biden right there. And I'm like, it was funny, and it almost made me uncomfortable. I'm like, Barack, Joe's standing right next to you. And so, like a few minutes ago, I said, well, we'll highlight that at 6:35, and it's already 6:40. But last night, and I am going to play it here in the next 3 minutes, I swear, I promise. But last night, I had several people that are taking issue with Hannah and Stephanie here on the show, because whenever we say, hey, this is coming up at 7:10, or hey, we have Scott Faughn from the Missouri Times on at 8:10 to talk about school board races across Missouri. And then I forget. And so they're mad at you because you guys are not reminding me.
That doesn't sound like our fault, actually.
Well, remember, we win as a team and we fail as a team. So,
right.
Yeah, so you got to remind me whenever I talk about this stuff. So
it's your world, man. We're all just living in it.
Okay, remember that. Those words will come back to haunt you, Hannah. So, and here's the other positive. So I'm looking at school board races. This year, we had over 40,000 people vote for school board candidates. 40,000 people. I was looking at last year's school board races. 25,000 people voted. Again, so we had a high voter turnout, and again, there were other issues to vote on, but I think that's very promising. You had over 40,000 people vote in a school board race in Columbia yesterday compared to 25,000 last year. That's important.
I think that's great, and I think it's kind of what we knew in our hearts already, that parents especially, were waking up and paying more attention to what's going on inside those schools, and I don't see that trend, going away anytime soon. And I think parents really drove some of the elections, like when we talk about Virginia, and I think I'm hoping that these same parents help drive the election in August and in November. So
let's hope. By the way, Scott Faughn, for real, Missouri Times, he is here at 8:10. He's been kind of monitoring school board elections across the state. A couple of good pieces of news out of the St. Louis area this morning, chatting with a friend there, and a couple of school board races in the St. Louis area did vote for conservative-leaning candidates that actually won seats on the board, so parents paying attention in some areas here. Blake Willoughby, the incumbent, he stays on the school board. And I think one of the big surprises yesterday, the number of votes. Suzette Waters got more votes than anybody else, including the incumbent in the school board race. Very disappointed that Adam Burks and Andrea Lisenby did not get more support. As a matter of fact, I think Adam Burks knows what's happening in that Columbia public school system better than anybody. I would venture to say even better than anybody on the school board. This guy has done his homework. Those were disappointing results. Okay, yesterday. And we'll continue. We're waiting on potentially Brianna Lennon, Boone County Clerk. She's a little busy this morning because she's dealing with a tie vote. A lot of folks got a lot of things to say about how a tie vote would manifest itself, but
there's a statute that controls for sure. Yeah. I think I have confirmed. It starts out talking about like what happens in a statewide race, what happens at the middle races, and then it's like any other race. And what you do is you either have a special election, you re-vote, or you have a lottery, and you can flip a coin or draw straws. It says by lot. But in order to get to the lottery, both candidates would have to agree, hey, I'm willing to flip a coin. And it's happened. It happened. You said it happened in Holt Summit a couple of years ago with the city council race, and it happened at Southern Boone School District, I don't know, maybe 5 years ago. So it does happen, and it's authorized by the law. But what Brian was telling us was there are still some votes out, so military votes, some other votes that still need to be counted. So we haven't. So first we have to confirm there is an actual tie. And that's what we are waiting on. And then if there is a tie and we confirm there's a tie, there's no question about what happens at that point.
So right now, it is a confirmed tie. We're waiting on the provisional ballots, military ballots by Friday, and maybe that will help us figure out who the next third ward city council person is going to be, or is it going to stay Carl Scully? Here's what people are saying regarding election results in Columbia. Here's what some of your neighbors are saying this morning. Rob says more of the same. And Como, I better not hear people complain, especially about the schools. Man, these teachers unions and the way they campaign for the candidates that they like, wow. And you can see it in somebody, Suzette Waters, gets more votes than anybody else. The way they reward people, which is fine. You go out, you can reward people for campaigning on whatever you want to do, but it shows you the power of these teachers unions.
Well, and I think the big takeaway for me was, in some of these races, it looked like only the NEA voted, right? And so a lot of the conservative candidates, especially in mid-Missouri, didn't fare as well. And I know we've got those bills. I think it's Phil Cristofanelli's bill. There are bills out there to move these races to the general, because again, if you know like anything about mid-Missouri, about Missouri in general, these conservative candidates, and even though school board is nonpartisan, conservative candidates should be winning. But I mean, the NEA does a really good job of turning people out in April, and I think and in Columbia, what did we get? 25%. It's a good turnout, but I think this is a good argument for why we should push some of these elections into the August primary or the November general to get a better look and a more representative vote of the people of your community.
Those unions, man, you're right. It is frightening. All right, so yesterday, also, John says via text 874-9390, welcome to San Francisco, Columbia. So yesterday, several thousand miles to the east of us, Washington, D.C., campaign stop. You've got a failing presidency. You've got a large number of people in America that are like, man, this is not cool what's happening with our country, especially right now as it relates to costs on things. Bad poll numbers. I can't imagine how many millions of regretful Biden voters there are out right now. So bring Obama to the White House. I would say, and they're saying, well, it was to celebrate the anniversary of healthcare. It was a campaign visit. It's like putting a 2x4 on a shed that's getting ready to fall over, and you get some wind coming through, and you take an old 2x4 or something, you prop up that shed because it's going to fall. Obama was the 2x4 yesterday.
Agreed.
Joe Biden is the old shed. You got to check out video of Biden walking around. Everybody's paying attention to Barack Obama yesterday, and Biden is like, when you're at a big event and everybody's in circles talking and like you can't work your way into the conversation. one of the most uncomfortable feelings in the world.
Yeah, that's the worst when you're at a party and you like don't know anybody and you're like just kind of wandering around. Yeah.
Hey. But you're the president of the United States, but people want to talk to folks that used to have the job. So then they get up and they start talking. And Obama tells this joke about Joe Biden, and it's funny and almost cringeworthy. Remember, Joe Biden standing right next to him.
Thank you. Vice President Biden, Vice President.
Called him Vice President Biden in front of Kamala Harris.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
And he's so obviously it's a several pronged joke. He used to be the vice president, but the real thing is people believe he's not really the president. 874-9390. 874-9390. Hannah, should I get Gerald's thoughts on local elections right here? Should we?
Sure.
Thank you. 874-9390. Gerald, welcome into the show. What's up?
Oh, I was just going to comment. It's too bad that two more people in my ward couldn't have voted what's his name out, Scala.
Yeah, I know. That's but here's think about this. Somebody said to me last night, if Carl Scala does lose, he was outwoked by somebody more woker than him.
And that thing yesterday with Obama, that kind of showed me what I thought in the beginning, that he secretly is still behind a lot of this. Destruction of America. He didn't want to have it happen on his watch, but here he is. He's the real deal, and Joe Biden's once again the sidekick when the votes showed that Obama was a sidekick and Joe Biden got more votes. But it's all freaking me out, man. It's just freaking me out. But yeah, we need to get more conservatives. And if you can get 15,000 conservatives on an April vote, you can win.
Gerald,
that's all we need.
Thank you for the phone call. We keep bragging about the election turnout yesterday, almost 24%. But still, when you look at the total number of registered, there are 124,000 people, 124,000 people in Boone County registered to vote. Less than 30,000 people voted yesterday. And one race in the town of Higbee, the mayoral race in Higbee. One call does it all. One call does it all. And right now they are hiring. You know, we've got rain today. We've had nice temps. Grass is sprouting. People are thinking about landscaping, yard cleanup. They are looking for good people like you. If you like working outdoors, by the way, this is not just about working outdoors, landscaping. And by the way, you can start at really, really good salary if you've got some experience. And if you're willing to work, they'll take care of you too. You get to work outside and you get the benefits, paid time off on the holidays and all this good stuff when you are working for Salter Lawn Service, and you will work for good people. That's always important to me. You want to work for you. Hey, I'll give you an honest day's work. I'll bust my tail for you. Are you going to take care of me? And I can tell you, when you are working for Salter Lawn Service, Salter will take care of you. So get onto their website or call and say, hey, man, I heard Branden on 93.9 The Eagle this morning saying you guys are looking to hire. I might be interested, man. And who knows? You could be running crews, doing all kinds of things. Salter Lawn Service. Salter, one call does it all.
Branden Rathert and Wake Up Columbia. Drinking upstream from the herd. 93.9 The Eagle.
On his approval rating, when he came into office last year, he was around 60% and even more, and now he's around 40% and sometimes less. Who does he blame now? Putin, Trump, or you? The communication team.
Oh, does he blame me? Oh, I don't know. I hope not.
Jen Psaki at the White House yesterday being asked by a reporter, and you can hear the accent in his voice, but he's saying, hey, these low approval ratings and all this stuff, inflation, people are getting broke, and there's just nothing happening. We don't even see a light at the end of the tunnel unless we're talking 2024. That might be the light at the end of the tunnel, but right now, what's our light at the end of the tunnel? But here's what's fascinating about that. That question being asked of Jen Psaki, is it your fault? Whose fault is it that all these things are going way south? Whose fault is it? That's a reporter at News Africa. So News Africa, you have a reporter from Africa. We talk about our view on the worldwide stage. You have a journalist from Africa saying, what's going on over here? To our point, that we look bad on a worldwide stage. Welcome to the show. Wake Up Columbia. There is Stephanie Bell.
Good morning.
Hannah, the producer, is here.
Good morning.
My name is Branden Rathert. Elections, interesting local election. This is from KOMU Higbee, a town, I think, not even 600 folks. And if you were to look Higbee up on a map, you'd see it's kind of north of Harrisburg, northeast of Fayette, southwest of Moberly. 600 folks. And apparently the mayoral race in this town of 600 folks got pretty nasty.
I mean, it's got pretty dirty at times. Now my tires sliced, my house has been painted on. You'd think I was running for the president of the United States. It's got pretty crazy. And now with this graffiti, I do not agree with that, period. I mean, that's about as low as you can get. I don't think I've ever seen it come to this magnitude. I'd say if it wasn't for all the mudslinging, it'd be a perfect community.
Man, Higbee, less than 600 people. Slashed tires.
Graffiti on someone's home. And they actually said Carl for mayor. So I think like somebody put the other guys. That's awful. I mean, I've heard of people like ripping down other people's signs. There's always like accusations. Someone's tearing down my signs. But graffiti on your house? I think. Well, and I can see that, though, because in such a small town, I'm sure it gets personal. Like, you know, these people have known each other their whole lives. And so I'm sure there's more to the story than we probably know. But man, that's some serious stuff.
And the winner in that Higbee mayoral race yesterday? I don't know. I didn't think that far.
Come on, man.
Well, there was one of them was an incumbent, so I'm going to guess the incumbent won, but I don't know that.
Coming up here on 93.9 The Eagle at 93.9theeagle.com, where you can listen live. You can also watch live. Go to our YouTube channel, 93.9 The Eagle. You can watch the show. As a matter of fact, interesting text from one of our listeners, JT, says, the light must not be cooperating for Stephanie's selfies this morning. Those are the kinds of things you get to see behind the scenes when you watch the show on our Wake Up YouTube channel. Boone County Clerk Brianna Lennon is going to be here 7:10. What about this tie in the 3rd Ward?
Deadly storms in the south. I'm Chris Foster, Fox News, and there's more potentially dangerous weather in the forecast today. Let's get more live from Fox's Time to Jay Powers.
Chris, the storms killed at least 2 people, one in Georgia and one in Texas. They're moving north today, covering an area that stretches from western Alabama to the western part of the Carolinas. The Storm Prediction Center says more than 10 million people in Atlanta, Birmingham, and Chattanooga will be at risk. The violent weather brought hail, strong winds, and tornadoes as it tore across the south yesterday, leaving more than 50,000 homes and businesses without power. From Texas to South Carolina, where lawmakers had to suspend debate and evacuate the State House chamber due to a tornado warning in Columbia. Chris.
Time to Jay Powers, thanks. The Biden administration, as well as the United Kingdom and European Union, are expected to announce more sanctions against Russia for its invasion of Ukraine, including a ban on new investment in Russia. Debate on a $10 billion coronavirus spending package is blocked in the Senate.
Democrats and GOP negotiators in the Senate thought they had a deal, $10 billion to pay for COVID treatments, vaccines, and research. But when it came to vote on starting debate on the measure, Republicans withheld support. They're demanding it include an amendment that would keep President Biden from lifting Trump-era curbs on migrants entering the U.S. White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki issued a statement saying the vote's a step backward for our ability to respond to this virus. But Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell said he thinks the amendment will be added to the bill. In Washington, Jill Nato, Fox News.
Oklahoma's Republican Governor Kevin Stitt is expected to sign a bill making it a felony to perform any abortion in the state practically. It was passed by the state Senate last year and the House yesterday, 70 votes to 14 with no debate. Abortions would only be legal to save the mother's life, with penalties up to 10 years in prison and a $100,000 fine. Similar bills have been blocked by the courts as unconstitutional. America's listening to Fox News.
Economists are warning that sanctions against Russia could cause unintended damage in America, triggering devastating inflation. As gas prices skyrocket, prices for everything could surge even higher, making the current 40-year record inflation look mild. Hi, this is Stephen K. Bannon, and I urge you to take immediate action to protect your savings by opening a physical gold IRA with my friends at Birch Gold. I'm a Birch Gold customer myself, and they have my highest recommendation. Just text the word PROTECT to 989898, and they'll send you a free info kit on how to get started. In my opinion, gold IRAs are one of the best ways to protect your savings no matter what happens in America or around the world. And the best company to work with is Birch Gold. So text the word PROTECT to 989898 to get everything you need to know about protecting your savings with gold.
93.9 The Eagle News Time with Robinson's Cleaners. Robinson saves you time. 8703. We continue to see the skies trying to clear right now in mid-Missouri. We're expecting sunshine to return to the forecast today. Our high around 61. Tonight, cloudy with a low near 39, and then we continue to cool off tomorrow with a high only around 51 degrees. Good morning, everyone, and here's some of the stories we are working on for you in this 7 o'clock hour. Voters in Columbia and Boone County have approved local use tax ballot measures. The vote was closer in the county, 15,278 in favor, 13,157 against. Supporters of the measure say Boone is the last county among its contiguous counties to approve a use tax. That's a sales tax on online sales. Former Boone County Commissioner Dave Griggs chaired the Boone County Yes on Prop 1 committee. Mr. Griggs and other supporters say Boone County lost $3.7 million to untaxed online sales in 2020. It was a big day in elections in Jefferson City and Cole County as well.
Jack Deacon is the new Jefferson City 1st Ward councilman. He defeated Jacob Robinette. Erin Wiseman retains her 3rd Ward seat, beating former councilman Bob Scrivener. Jefferson City sewer bond issue passes easily. Erica Leonard and Ann Blemke Warren elected to Jefferson City School Board. John Weber and Glenn Reynolds win election to the board at Blair Oaks and Wardsville. The Taos election rules ballot issue passes, and a school bond issue passes in Eugene. Holt Summit Mayor Landon Oxley reelected, and both the Holt Summit and North Callaway Fire District tax levies have passed. pass. John Marsh, 93.9 The Eagle.
All right, John, thanks. Columbia's mayor-elect campaigned on a platform that included Columbia having a 24/7 shelter that provides basic daily needs and services to lift people out of homelessness. The winner in the race is Barbara Buffalo, the former Columbia sustainability manager. She beats businessman Randy Minshew and 3 other candidates in the mayoral election on Tuesday. Ms. Buffalo has also called for serving housing needs for people across the income spectrum so that everyone can find their home in Columbia. She'll be sworn in this month. She'll replace the outgoing mayor, Brian Treese, who did not seek re-election. Voters in CPS, Columbia Public Schools, giving the green light to an $80 million bond issue. It will fund construction of 2 new elementary schools. The bond issue will fund a $25 million new elementary school on the Warner Middle School property, $28 million for land, and a new future elementary school in a location yet to be determined. CPS Superintendent Dr. Brian Yearwood tells 93.9 The Eagle he is elated.
This would not be possible unless Columbia Public Schools has the support of our community. And it became very evident tonight that our community trusts our schools, trusts our teachers, trust our system.
The bond issue will also fund a $15 million addition in renovation at the Columbia Area Career Center. It also will fund an addition at the Elliott Battle Elementary School, which is here in Columbia as well. Will be at least Friday before we know who won Columbia's hotly contested 3rd Ward Council race. Longtime incumbent Carl Scala and challenger Roy Lovelady, each receiving 1,102 votes on Tuesday. The Boone County Clerk, Brianna Lennon, will join us live right after this newscast. She notes military votes are due by Friday at noon. Ms. Lennon also says her office will do the normal provisional ballots during the certification. The voter turnout, by the way, ended up shattering the original turnout projection of Ms. Lennon. She was going with 15%, up that to 18%. In the end, we were almost at 24% yesterday. Again, Brianna will join us live here right after the news. And a parolee who's charged with murder for a January overdose death in Moberly has been in and out of prison for the past decade. 93.9 The Eagle News has reviewed the extensive record of 41-year-old Dustin Poole. We found he first arrived in prison in 2011. He's been paroled several times, including recently. He's now charged with second-degree murder for a January overdose death that involved fentanyl. Missouri's Probation and Parole Board has once again revoked Poole's parole. He's incarcerated in Fulton. He'll have to go back, finish his 7-year prison sentence for drugs on top of the new murder charges. 93.9 The Eagle News is brought to you in this 7 o'clock hour by the folks at the Candy Factory. They're in downtown Columbia. You can find them online, thecandyfactoryonline.com. 93.9 The Eagle News Time, 7:07. Turning our attention now to sports. Cardinal baseball, nothing today in spring training. In fact, spring training is now over. It was very short, to say the least, because of the labor problems earlier that they negotiated late. So spring training obviously cut down. Regular season will start tomorrow, and you'll hear it live right here on 93.9 The Eagle. 3:15 the first pitch. Adam Wainwright on the mound for the Cardinals, and Pittsburgh Pirates coming to town from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. 3:15 first pitch. You'll catch all the action in every game, day and night, weekend and weekday, right here on 93.9 The Eagle. Our news time is 7:08. Kevin, thank you. Right now we do have clear skies. Sunrise was at 6:46, 43. 7:09 traffic check. MidmoHires.com. Local companies are looking for local people. MidmoHires.com. Roads are quiet. A quick note for those of you in Jefferson City, you will notice the Missouri Capitol Dome lit teal starting at sunset this evening until tomorrow morning. That is in recognition of Sexual Assault Awareness Month under the orders of Governor Parson. He says an American is sexually assaulted about every 68 seconds. The governor has ordered the dome to be lit teal starting at sunset this evening, and you'll see that from afar. We'll have more team coverage in less than 30 minutes. Breaking news immediately. I'm Brian Hauswirth, 93.9 The Eagle.
34 precincts are in countywide. All the votes are in. The next mayor of Columbia will be Barbara Buffalo.
Hanging out with Barbara Buffalo at her victory party. Barbara Buffalo last night. Folks from the Columbia Daily Tribune newspaper hanging out with her last night. I was at the Randy Minshew victory party, which ended up becoming a watch party, and I got to tell you, for a bunch of us, and again, they're nonpartisan local offices, but we know who the smart candidates were. Unfortunately, we live in the city limits of Columbia, and I'll tell you, in my opinion, the smart, intelligent candidates, they did not win last night. That bums me out. But a couple of big things. Number one, voter turnout. Number two, tie right now in the 3rd Ward between Roy Lovelady and Carl Scala. I want to bring in Boone County Clerk Brianna Lennon. We're all very appreciative of your time this morning. We know it was an incredibly long day for you. I think first question, do we know what's going to happen with this tie? We're waiting for more provisional ballots, military ballots. Those we should have those by Friday. Then what happens?
Yeah, so we still need to finish certifying the election like we normally do. So we will be going through that process, making sure that everything is in order. So until that is really certified, which won't happen for another, at least week, because we have to do the military ballots to come in by noon on Friday. Right now, we're just kind of in a holding pattern until we finish it out.
Until then, so is there a recount until you go, okay, here's the votes we do have. Let's go ahead and recount what we do have until we get the military provisional ballots coming up on Friday. Is there a recount happening this morning?
No, so there's no provision to do that because with the results being unofficial, it's still unofficially a tie. So we still have to finish that out.
All right, and then let's say, and I'm digging maybe a little deep down in the what-if barrel, maybe after we get these extra, the provisional and military ballots in, it'll make a clear-cut winner, but let's say, because a lot of people, as a matter of fact, Carl Scala talking to ABC 17 last night saying, well, I don't really know what happens here, and we have experts all across the Twitter spectrum telling us how it should work, but interesting question. Do we know? Let's say we have a tie election in any race in Columbia. I know Holt Summit a couple of years ago, there was a tie in an election there. They flipped a coin. Does anybody know how we would deal with that situation here?
Yeah, so we've had ties in Boone County before. I know Ashland had ties several times in the past and had to, I think they drew names out of a hat, actually. So the statute has a number of options. There's the option to have a full-on new election. There's the option to flip a coin or to draw names out of a hat. At that point, the city of Columbia is really involved in that point. We just administer whatever it is that they kind of decide to do. So there's state statutes that dictate all of that, and that's, I imagine, what will be happening if it really is a tie.
Boone County Clerk Brianna Lennon is hanging out with us here on Wake Up Columbia on 93.9 The Eagle.
Thanks so much, Branden. Ms. Lennon, thank you for your patience last night. I know we were in touch quite a bit about the elections and then throughout the day yesterday and last week as well. Branden asked some great questions there because I was looking through the charter and I can't find anything in the actual charter that addresses this very issue. So this statute that Chuck Hatfield has referenced apparently would kick in. But let's say hypothetically, because we don't know, and it'd have to stay tied. What if Scala says I want an election, or Lovelady says I want an election, and the other one says I want to do a coin toss? What do we do then? Because I'm unclear under the law.
So the statute kind of puts it in the city's court in that. So if you look at that statute, it says that everything is done by the entity that is the filing office, and that would be the city of Columbia.
Okay.
And we have, when I was in the Secretary of State's office, this had come up too, and it really does come down to the city and the candidates kind of talking it over and seeing what the determination is.
If I may follow up just on the actual turnout, I know we talked Friday, and you had said to me that you thought your original projection of 15%, you thought it would be higher based on absentee voters. You said that yesterday again, and you thought it would go to 18%. It turns out almost 24%. Is that a record for a municipal election?
Yes. I don't know percentage-wise if it is. It's definitely the most votes that have been cast in a municipal election, which is amazing. And I mean, even, anecdotally, if you look at some of our city council races that we've had in the past, this tie was not a small tie where it was like, 100 votes to 100 votes. It was over 2,000 votes were cast in the third ward race. So it was really, really a amazing turnout. I know it still seems low because it was still, under 25%, but relative to a local election, this was a really, really high turnout.
As a matter of fact, I was looking at voter turnouts for school board members, and last year, I think not quite 26,000 voted in the school board races. This year, 40,000 votes cast in the school board races.
So any hiccups yesterday? I mean, just the turnout alone, number of printed ballots, that kind of thing. What do you watch for, and any hiccups yesterday?
So the nice thing about a lot of the ways that we check in voters and things like that is the turnout that we're watching, we can also monitor to make sure that things are working well at the polls and that voters are getting checked in on a regular basis. So the reports that we got from the poll workers are that it was busy and steady all day, but there weren't anything that was holding anybody up. So that was nice to hear. And you could watch turnout throughout the day. Didn't start super high, but then it kind of took off around 10 or 11 o'clock, and it just kind of continued to climb. It stayed steady, and then we had this spike that happened around 4 and 5 o'clock, and that's what really pushed it to that 23%, because extrapolating out from how many had been casting ballots earlier in the day, that's when we were looking at 18%, and people just started flooding out in the late afternoon.
And you owe me another steak dinner. Is that where we are with this on projecting voter turnout, Brianna?
I did not make anything official for this one because I got burned too bad the last time. And look at what happened again.
It was good to see. Anything else that you would like to add? Anything else we haven't asked that we need to address before we let you go this morning?
I just want to thank all of the voters and the election judges for an awesome job yesterday. I don't think anybody expected this high of a turnout, and, that means that our election judges were working extra hard, and they were amazing. And if you ever want to be a part of an amazing election, you can still sign up to be an election judge for August and November.
Brianna, Lennon, Boone County Clerk, thank you as always. Anything that we can do for you, please let us know. So here's the thing, and Hannah pointed this out to me a couple of weeks ago. I came in one morning, I'm like, man, I only paid $3.89 a gallon for gasoline. And my conscious, Hannah, said,
isn't that sad that we're celebrating $3.89?
So here we are, and I'm guilty of this too, but for a municipal election, 24% turnout is astounding. But if you think about it this way, the number of registered voters, there's almost 124,000 people that live in Boone County that are registered to vote. 124,000. Not even 30,000 people showed up to vote. And I get it, it's municipal, but here's one of the things that makes me feel good is that, I go back to, and this is something I learned from my good friend Laura Nauser, who was on the city council for a few years and who hung out with us here on Wake Up Columbia for several more years. The more local or the more important are the elections. And I've been talking about this for a year now. State Senator Caleb Branden. Last year, Stephanie and I were at the Boone County Lincoln Days. Caleb Browden's big message last year at the Boone County Lincoln Days
was conservatives can win on issues, and one of those issues is education.
Education, education, education. You had over 40,000 people cast ballots and I might have my math wrong on that, but you had a lot more voting this year in the school board election than you had last year.
Yeah, and sometimes I like to tell this joke because people find out that I'm an alderwoman when I'm, out of state traveling or whatever, and I say, yeah, I think I was elected with like 300 votes, and I was like, actually, I think I got more votes to be the vice president of the Truman State student government than I did, because it was in I think there were like 8,000 students, and so I know I got more than 300 votes to be on the city council of Ashland, essentially the board of aldermen. But but really, I mean, I think that's a really good argument. And I think people should look seriously at this legislation that moves the elections to a primary, the August primary or the November general, because I think the more people we have voting, we want the school board and we want our boards of aldermen and our city councils to be representative of our communities. And, asking people to turn out on a random April and May or in a random Tuesday in April when most people, I mean, I don't know what the percentage is in November, but
I think 2016 it was almost, and I might be wrong here, almost 90% in Boone County. Excuse me, 2020 presidential election.
Yeah.
I think almost 90%. Can you imagine if we had a municipal election with even 50%? As Tom points out via text, it's cool that we had 24% show up to vote, but it's still sad that 76% of folks that have the ability, that not only have the ability and the legal qualifications to vote, they went and they got registering to vote is more of a pain in the ass than actually going to vote.
Yeah.
If you've registered to vote, you've done the hard work, man.
Just show up. And you can do it on a Saturday before the election if you've got a problem on election day. I mean, the clerk's office does do a really nice job, but I also would like to give a shout out to all the candidates because, again, I mean, they were really out in the community. They were at organizations. They were going to meetings. They were knocking doors. I saw a lot of the candidates in Southern Boone and in Ashland at my doorstep. And so it's really, I mean, I think the turnout, we can say, people just woke up, but the candidates worked really hard to make sure people knew about their campaigns and knew what day to go vote. So
the other candidates in this race, we have run a clean campaign. All 5. It's been an honor to serve with them, to go through this very interesting process.
Barbara Buffalo yesterday saying, hey, there were some outside influences. But we ran a clean campaign. The candidates got to know each other. And when I was at the Randy Minshew party last night, he was very, when the results came in, he was saying the same thing. He says, it's been nice to get to know these people that ultimately want to help our community.
Yeah, I think so. And I know a lot of people, I mean, I know you're disappointed about Randy Minshew. I know, Hannah and I were kind of talking about it. And I said, but, secretly, I'm kind of excited to listen to Branden sound off against Barbara Buffalo because I know her policies are not going to align necessarily with yours. And I think you and her, I'm afraid she's going to be like your new Stephanie Browning. And you guys are,
oh boy.
No.
She's been in city government. We've had her on the show. I really did appreciate her comments. I think she's a smart woman and congratulations to her. I just think on the policies, I don't think I'm going to see eye to eye on a lot of where and especially on the funding. She wants to do the homeless shelter, and I think that's going to be hard.
And we get along. Barbara is a very nice individual. As a matter of fact, I'm hoping that she will come on this morning. I'm hoping she's not pulling a Hawley or a Greitens. We help these people campaign and they successfully win their offices, and then they get into the governorship or they get into the Senate, and then all of a sudden they have no use for us anymore. We're hoping to get Barbara, I think only the second female mayor in the history of Columbia. So we are trying to get her on the show this morning. What's hot with Hannah today? What do you got for?
Some high-tech advancements in Major League Baseball. Yeah.
Always certain. Sometimes right. This is Branden, Rathert, and Wake Up Columbia. 93.9 The Eagle.
We have no Border Patrol presence. So another byproduct of all this is that there's a lot of foot drug traffic.
That is Bonnie Elbert. Bonnie Elbert lives in Brownsville, Texas. Brownsville, Texas, cozied up against our southern border. Talking about how bad it is now dealing with illegal immigration. And now with the Title 42 being lifted, which is something that Trump enacted, say, hey, listen, while we're having these health things, we need the ability to be able to turn somebody coming here illegally. We need the ability to turn you back quicker. Getting rid of that. And by the way, people are saying, oh, I can't, you're so mean to illegal immigrants. Those people don't live in Brownsville, Texas. Those people that are affected by this crap every single day. They don't live there. They don't think about the people that are actually affected by these lax policies. Coming up a little bit later, we're going to look at a statewide school board election. Scott Faughn, Missouri Times, is here at 8:10. Right now, 7:25-ish, which means it's
7:29.
Time for What's Hot with Hannah.
So Major League Baseball's getting a high-tech advancement, and it's for pitchers and catchers. I think it's really cool. It's posted on the Wake Up Columbia Facebook page, but basically the catcher will get to wear a wristband that has buttons on it. So when they want to call a pitch, they can push the button, and that goes to a receiver in the pitcher's baseball cap, and it tells them what pitch. That way, teams don't have to worry about, people stealing their signs for pitches.
Of course, with Houston Astros, big thing during their World Series run. I think we should look at that more because now technology is involved. That should be easy to steal. And good news for recently graduated college students. We have that at 7:35.
Fox News, I'm Lillian Wu. Health experts are gathering today to cobble out a COVID-19 vaccine strategy for the country.
The FDA is trying to figure out how to configure COVID vaccines that help protect against new variants of the virus, much like the similar process already being done for flu shots. The panel is set to hear from its vaccine experts, the Centers for Disease Control, the National Institutes of Health, and the World Health Organization. The New York Times reports that an official from Israel's health ministry will also discuss data from its second booster program, which was rolled out earlier this year.
Fox's Tanya J. Powers and Al-Qaeda's chief apparently makes a rare video appearance. Ayman al-Zawahiri, who is rumored to have died, appearing to praise an Indian Muslim woman who in February defied a hijab ban is possibly the first proof in months that he is actually alive. America's listening to Fox News.
And now award-winning local news coverage with Brian Hauswirth on 93.9 The Eagle.
93.9 The Eagle News Time with Robinson's Cleaners. Robinson saves you time. Right now we do have clear skies in Columbia. We're expecting a high today of around 61 degrees. 43 right now in sunny in Columbia. 42 degrees in Jefferson City. Good morning, everyone, and here are some of the stories that we are working on for you in this 7 o'clock hour. A parolee is back in prison this morning in Fulton. He's now charged with murder for a deadly overdose in January in Moberly.
Moberly police say 41-year-old Dustin Poole is charged in Randolph County with second-degree murder. Moberly police say the unidentified victim died from an overdose of fentanyl that was allegedly supplied by Poole. 93.9 The Eagle has reviewed Poole's criminal record, and we found that he's been in and out of prison since 2011. Missouri's Probation and Parole Board has revoked Poole's parole, and he's now incarcerated in Fulton. He will have to finish his current 7-year sentence for drugs. Don Luzader, 93.9 The Eagle.
It'll be at least Friday before we know who won Columbia's hotly contested third ward council race. Longtime incumbent Carl Scala, challenger Roy Lovelady, each receiving 1,102 votes on Tuesday. Likely we won't know until next week. Could be later than that. Voters in Columbia and Boone County saying yes to local use tax ballot measures. Supporters in the city and county say passage will help local stores that have lost business to online retailers. One of the big backers, Dave Griggs, who is the former head of Dave Griggs' Carpet Max on the business loop. He's also a former county commissioner. Columbia's mayor-elect campaigned on a platform that included Columbia having a 24/7 shelter that provided daily basic needs. Barbara Buffalo winning a race against businessman Randy Minshew. And coming up at noon at the state capitol, State Representative Cherie Tolson-Reich will take the podium. She will testify on her big bill to allow the Secretary of State to inspect the voter rolls of any election authority. Look for a crowded room and a lot of testimony on that bill today. Our news is brought to you this hour by Willett Dental Associates, WillettDentalAssociates.com. Our news time, 7:33. In sports, Cardinal baseball, spring training is now over officially, at least for the Cardinals, and the regular season will begin tomorrow. Today, a day to get ready, a travel day for some. The Cardinals and the Pittsburgh Pirates taking each other on at Busch Stadium in St. Louis. 3:15 is the first pitch tomorrow. Wainwright on the hill. If you can't make it to the game, you can catch it right here on 93.9 The Eagle, your home for St. Louis Cardinal baseball here in Columbia and mid-Missouri, 93.9 The Eagle, and we'll have all the games day and night, weekend and weekday as well. Pittsburgh is the opponent. Our news time, 7:34. Traffic check with MidmoHires.com. Local companies are looking for local people. MidmoHires.com. Find a job, post your job opening today. The roads have been pretty quiet here in mid-Missouri. If you do have a traffic issue or something we need to know about, you can let us know. We're always happy to hear about it and get the information out for the rest of our listeners. Call or text. Our number is 573-874-9390. More team coverage in less than 30 minutes, and we have breaking news immediately. I'm Brian Hauswirth, 93.9 The Eagle.
Gonna listen to 93.9. Brandon, Stephanie, Brian, Hannah, and whoever else rhymes with 93.9. Brandon Minshew.
Cosmo does mornings that are friends over at Y107. It's a shame.
Brandon Minshew.
This will be about one of the last times that we'll get to play it, and it's a shame that we didn't have it ready until yesterday. As a matter of fact, last night victory party for Randy Minshew. They were ready to blare that. Disappointingly enough, that did not happen.
So we teased it yesterday. I don't think we actually ended up talking about it. But do we want to share what happened behind the scenes yesterday morning with that song?
Yeah, by the way, this is Wake Up Columbia. That is Hannah, the producer. She's getting ready to tell you a great story here, behind the scenes stuff. There's Brian Hauswirth. That's Stephanie Bell. My name is Brendan Rathert.
So we enlisted the help of our friend Cosmo from our sister station Y107. And before the show started yesterday morning, Cosmo was putting the finishing touches on the song. And he comes out and he's all excited. And he asks Branden, he says, do you want to listen to it before you play it on air, or do you want to be surprised? And Branden stands there and finally goes, I better listen to it. You know, he finally takes my advice.
That was at the direction of Hannah, the producer.
So Branden goes into Cosmo's studio, and about 3 seconds later, they come out laughing hysterically because Cosmo had apparently recorded the song for Gary Minshew instead of Randy Minshew. And Branden was very glad that he screened that before it went on air, because we would have been shocked if it was for Gary Minshew.
So this whole thing just started kind of as an offhand comment. I heard the Rolling Stones miss you, and I keep hearing Minshew, and so I kind of mentioned it to Cosmo, that'd be fun if we did a parody song, Rolling Stones miss you, but we changed it to Randy Minshew, and it just kind of we talked about it but took no action. Yesterday morning, the day of the election, Cosmo comes in. Man, I'm going to do that song. I'm going to do it right now. And like he's prepping for his own show, helping us out with our show. And he's like writing, I'm like, Cosmo, I just like just do the chorus, Randy Minshew. You don't need to. And he's writing lyrics. And this guy's working on it for a while. And he's so proud of it. And finally, I go in and I listen to it. And it's Gary Minshew. And it was
like within the first 3 or 4 seconds of the song, you went, huh.
Yeah.
It was like 3 a.m. I mean, let's give Cosmo a break. Also, do you have people like in your mind, their name should not be what their name is? You know, I have those people where I'm like, I will always in my mind call you a different name.
I call Branden a different name off air than I do on air.
Just like, you don't look like a Bob, you look like a Steve, you know, and in your mind it just never clicks for you. I have those people.
As I looked at this race, I really thought that with all the signs, and signs don't vote, I realized that Minshew had more signs that I saw than anyone else, especially on the businesses. I noticed that. However, especially when I was driving down Ash, I had to drive down Ash a couple of times and then met Brianna Lennon for an interview. But I noticed a lot of, especially in the, I guess that would be the first ward and then going into the fourth, I did notice a lot of Barbara Buffalo signs, but it was a close race. It was very close.
And he outperformed because he ran for council person, right? Or what, right? He was mayor. No.
He's a council person, technically.
In the previous election, Minshew has run before and lost.
Yes.
And he outperformed that previous race yesterday. So it actually did give me hope because I was kind of expecting more of the same just based on what we knew from the past. And I think conservatives really did, turn out for him yesterday. And so, I mean, Barbara Buffalo was a strong candidate, I think. And, had there been more people in the race or whatever, I mean, I think I'm still hopeful. I'm disappointed, but I'm hopeful after last night.
And 40,000 people voted in the school board race. Over 40,000 votes. Last year, 25,000 votes. That's another reason for hope. I think you look like a Celeste.
A Celeste?
A Celeste, maybe.
Why do you think she looks like that?
I don't know. Because you're right, though, to your earlier point. Like, you see people... And Cosmo saw Randy Minshew and apparently that's a Gary. I know that his parents gave him the name Randy at birth, but he looks like a Gary. Because you do, I think, sometimes you see people and you're like, yeah, that person is totally, that person is totally a Stephanie. I don't know, a Celeste maybe. That professional.
That's a weird name. Do you know anyone named Celeste?
No, I don't. But that professional elegance.
Oh.
That's awesome.
Hauswirth?
Yes, sir.
What would you?
I think Brian's nervous. What?
But if you look at Hannah, see, as my dear sweet Hannah, I think Hannah's the perfect name for Hannah.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I think this is why, like, when you naming a kid feels so monumental.
Sure.
Because you're like, I don't want them to be hated. It can't rhyme with anything weird, so they could have a bad nickname, and it just feels like, and in the end, does it really matter?
Right.
Like, I mean, if you had a really there's a broad spectrum of names that are acceptable, I think. It could matter if you did something really crazy, but.
What I don't understand, and of course, I'm not a parent, so maybe it's something I will understand later, is when people say that they want to wait until they see their baby to give them a name.
Agree. 100%.
It's going to look like a mushy newborn.
No baby comes out and you're like, this looks like a Steve.
Right. I don't get it at all.
And the other thing, I still think we should be able, parents give you a name, but that should just be a placeholder name. We don't get to choose our names. You didn't get to choose, Stephanie, did you? No.
Just because that's what you did doesn't mean everyone else should do that.
Can I tell you this story? My brother-in-law might kill me for this one, but I love it. He got made fun of because our last name's Bell, right? And growing up, he was like, man, on the playground, I just hate Bell. Everyone's calling me Johnny Taco Bell, and I just hate it. I hate it. And his mom's like, well, he's like, I'm going to change my name. And he was young, and so his mom's like, okay, you can change your name. She's like, you think about it, and, you let us know. And he thought about it and came back at the dinner table and just serious as all get out. He goes, I've decided, Johnny Jaguar. And so to this day, on his birthday cards and stuff, I still say, hey, Johnny Jaguar, here you go. And I'm like,
That's Stephanie Taco Bell there. That's Brian Hauswirth. Hannah, the producer. My name is Branden Rathert. Some other interesting takeaways last night. I think one of the big stories, so that's the tie in that third ward race.
2 ties actually yesterday, which I think is really interesting. The other one for folks who live in McBain, it's a trustee race. And again, Stephanie pointed out and Brianna's pointed out, we've had them, but it's rare. This one is the McBain trustee, but Marvin Sapp and John Schrader Jr. have tied in that race. So based on what Ms. Lennon has said in our conversations, obviously that one is fewer votes, obviously because it's a smaller town, but it's still the same philosophy, and it's going to be the same approach, I would think. But yes, I think the fact that I think what Brianna said there, Lennon, is huge. It wasn't just 100 to 100. It was 1102 to 1102. And that surprised me because I live in the third ward. And when I voted mid-afternoon yesterday, it was light. It was like 5-6%. So it either picked up or I just happened to be in a precinct. There's a lot of students, I think. But that's a huge turnout, and we'll see what happens. But 2 ties yesterday here in Boone County.
Well, and I'm not going to pull these vote totals fast enough, but I think another interesting thing from Southern Boone that came out was just the love of the school district. If you look, so the use tax issue in Boone County passed. It failed in Ashland. So Ashland, it failed by not as much as I thought it would. It was kind of close. But then, and so you kind of get that like anti-tax, vote, right? But then you look at the school bond issue, and overwhelmingly passed. And I've always kind of admired that about Southern Boone, that, the community really comes together to support the schools, and the schools can really do no wrong. And I think you don't see that high a vote in areas where people are really dissatisfied with what's going on in the schools. But I thought, even with that huge anti-tax vote, I mean, it's going to be an enormous lift to ever pass a use tax in Ashland. And it was closer again than I thought. But then you see the school bond vote, and you just see a love for Southern Boone schools, which I thought was...
Did anybody else experience this yesterday? I'm voting no on the Columbia Public School bond issue. And I'm like, man, sorry, kids, but screw you because of your ineffectual leadership. This is your fault. This is why I'm voting no on this issue. Sorry, kids. Knowing that it was going to pass. Here's one of the big things I encountered yesterday, the internal battles people had on the use tax in Columbia. Yeah, this will help. People say, no, it doesn't help local businesses. It does, bottom line. So there's that. But then as a fiscal conservative, you're like, I don't want a new tax. I don't want to. And then it occurs to me, Stephanie buys stuff online, not me. This will affect Stephanie. I'm happy for Stephanie to have a tax increase. This won't affect me at all. The other surprise, fourth ward council race, I was surprised. I thought it was going to be a lot closer. Erica Pefferman got hammered last night. The percentage in that race, Nick Foster winning overwhelmingly 62-38. And that really surprised me because I know Erica Pefferman. She's very well known in the business community. I was just shocked at the margin. And by the way, in that race, that fourth ward race, they had 6 write-in candidates. And I feel bad because that's a pain for the people at the clerk's office because technically they have to be a certified write-in. And It's just crazy. And it causes work whenever people go on the media and start encouraging people to put in write-in votes. It's not fun.
Branden.
874-9390, 874-9390 if there's something that we can do for you. Tom says, going back to names, if the name babies by looks, they would all be named. Gosh. Let's do this.
Seriously?
Seriously, because I don't know.
Would you just tell us?
They'd all be named Yoda.
Yeah, I get it, you're an outcast. Always under attack, always coming in last. Bringing up the past, no one owes you anything.
If you've ever had that feeling, sometimes you got a car and something's wrong with it, check engine light is on, and every morning you get in it and you start it up, and there is just that very slight few moments of, is it going to start with... I don't have that. I've been taking my car to Gap's Automotive Repair Shop for some 50,000 miles. More than 50,000 miles, actually, I guess. And here's why I have that confidence. So when I have something like maintenance, hey, you need 100,000-mile maintenance. I'm like, okay, do I really need it? And they're good with that. And I trust them. The other thing that they'll tell me is, hey, you got this. And here's what I don't like. You go somewhere, you need to get this fixed today. And sometimes there are situations like that. But Gap's Automotive Repair Shop, they're like, hey, you've got this. You don't need to get it done now, but we want you to know about it. And I love that. You should make Gap's Automotive Repair Shop like your personal mechanic. Gap's Automotive Repair Shop. They're on Vandiver and Columbia, and you'll find them in Booneville, too.
This is Woke Up Columbia. Not really. Just kidding. 93.9 The Eagle.
You know she's going to MSDNC. You know that, right? Right? They need a redhead. They don't have a redhead over there, so they need a redhead.
Donald Trump, he would have an excellent career doing stand-up comedy. Donald Trump over the weekend in Georgia talking about Jen Psaki. That whole thing of her, by the way, I don't know that I've heard CNN refer to the Clinton News Network. I don't know, and I love the name MSNBC. I don't know that I have ever heard it referred to as the MSDNC, Democratic National Committee. That's good, Trump. Get some points. Maybe we'll nominate you as a winner of the week coming up at 8:35 on a Feel Good Friday. That whole thing, by the way, Jen Psaki is going to MSNBC, and yesterday she's in the White House. She's commenting on stuff. She's still employed by the White House. It just blows me away, but that's what they do. That's how they can get away with these things because that's just what they do. There is Stephanie Taco Bell.
Good
You're going to
morning.
regret ever telling me that story.
I mean, yeah, people will be like, oh, we'll be there with bells on. I mean, people love the last name Bell. They have all sorts of jokes about it.
Hannah, the producer, is here.
Good morning, Branden. Would you Rathert?
We haven't played that game in a long time. Would you Rathert? We put up two very differing scenarios, and neither one of them pleasant. And we would do, would you Rathert? 874-9390, 874-9390. Looking at election results from across the state. How did school boards in other parts of the states do? Did they go? And they keep using the phrase conservative, and I get it. We look here locally. Our races, there's no political affiliation, city council, school board races. But we know.
Yeah, and I think the other thing between just conservative and liberal, I think in my mind, a lot of the races were, are we going to vote? Are we going to vote for the rubber stamp, or are we going to vote for change? And I was hoping for more votes for change last night and less votes for rubber stamps. And I know around mid-Missouri, it feels like we got a lot of rubber stamping.
Yeah, rubber stamping, nothing has changed. Matter of fact, you look at the city council, it has gone way. I mean, so the mayor now, Barbara Buffalo, who's the 7th voting member of the city council. I mean, everybody on that council, Andrea Wayner, and wow, just.
Who else was on there?
Pat. So
Fowler.
Pat Fowler, Andrea Wayner, Carl Scala right now, but then he could be replaced by Roy Lovelady. That's a tie. Probably Friday before we know anything on that. Nick Foster, by the way, Nick Foster over the years very involved in the community. Had a pleasant conversation via text with him yesterday. But it's just that whole mindset. And I wish we stop the liberal and conservative. I think we should start saying, instead of conservative, us smart people. Smart people.
That's not going to make anyone mad at all. It's not going to trigger anybody, Branden.
Is that a troll?
Yeah.
See, I can troll. I just can't do it on the Twitter.
What do you mean? You used to tell me every day that you were trolling people on Twitter.
That's about all I could do on Twitter, and that's why I got off. Still do post the Wake Up Columbia video feed every morning on there, but I did. I was guilty of the same thing that I was getting on there and like leaving a comment and then bailing out, and I didn't.
You would tell me almost every morning, oh, look at what I commented on this politician's tweet or whatever.
I was trying to brag on the work that you and Stephanie had done with me, because you both had seriously were taking time to try to help me and teach me, and so I was always doing it. Say, hey, look, guys, you're making progress, because look, now I'm going carpet bombing people and ducking out.
I think you also wanted validation that, oh yeah, that's a sick burn, Rathert.
And now, I mean, and Brian Hauswirth has us all beat. He was on Twitter last night covering the weather. He was covering I saw the tie I think Brian announced it, and he said, this is something I've never seen before. And I thought, uh-oh. So I retweeted and I said, something Brian Hauswirth has never seen before? Now we're talking. I'm interested. So he had it. He beats us all on Twitter.
He does very well on there. Welcome to the show. So today we're in the last day of our poll, the 93.9 The Eagle poll, GOP Senate primary. How would you vote if the election were today? We'll unveil some of those results tomorrow, but get on there. And it's one question. I mean, it takes like 5. You get on to 939theeagle.com, and you'll see listener survey on the front page. The question, who is it for you? Is it Hartzler? Is it Schmidt? Is it McCloskey? Who is it? And then you make your vote. And it's like 10 seconds. So just anxious to see what people are where their heads at with this race. And by the way, more news regarding Eric Greitens. Apparently his wife Sheena, and this is all, by the way, a lot of this is unfolding in Boone County. But Sheena Greitens saying, listen, okay, so these allegations that Eric Greitens are saying, that's absolutely not true. She is now adding another element to the picture here. She's saying, I've got pictures of the abuse.
And he is out there. I mean, most people thought he would just leave it alone, and he's out there and basically disparaging her, you know, in press conferences and with his statements. And I think it's getting really nasty. And I think if I was a political candidate involved in this kind of dispute, I mean, I think most would just say, you know, it's a personal matter. Yeah. But he's out there now disparaging her, and I don't think that does him. Any favors.
I know, because it's consistent with some of the other allegations and some of the things he has admitted to. And I'm not saying he would be a bad politician, but I think people start to look at that. Wait a minute, you're dealing with an ex-wife, and actually technically...
Who has the receipts?
Yeah, and you've got kids in this, and you're going out and you're lambasting the mother. See, this is where politics stop. This is about your family. You are lambasting the mother of your 2 little kids, and you're doing it very publicly, and you're saying some pretty untoward things. That potentially could be a problem for people. Family over politics.
Another financial squeeze on Russia. I'm Chris Foster, Fox News. The Biden administration and American allies are expected to announce today more punishment for Russia's invasion of Ukraine and attacks on civilians. Live to the White House, Fox's Jared Halpern.
The U.S. and the rest of the G7 bloc are imposing additional sanctions on the Russian economy, targeting financial and technology sectors. The package is expected to include a ban on all new investments in Russia and sanctions on individual members of the Russian government and their families. All of it comes amid new images out of the Ukrainian city of Bucha and the deaths of civilians there. President Biden has labeled war crimes. Chris.
Jared, an FDA panel is meeting today to discuss COVID-19 vaccine strategy.
The FDA is trying to figure out how to configure COVID vaccines that help protect against new variants of the virus, much like the similar process already being done for flu shots. The panel is set to hear from its vaccine experts, the Centers for Disease Control, the National Institutes of Health, and the World Health Organization. The New York Times reports that an official from Israel's health ministry will also discuss data from its second booster program, which was rolled out earlier this year. A large Israeli study of the Pfizer vaccine showed a 4th dose lowered COVID rates among the elderly, but that its protection dwindled after 4 weeks. Last month, the FDA authorized a second booster dose of the Moderna and Pfizer vaccines for people 50 and older in the U.S. Tanya J. Powers, Fox News.
Another tornado outbreak in the south. At least 2 people are killed, one in Georgia, one in Texas. Ron Willen lives in East Texas.
They raised trailer up a couple of feet and blocked us in. We had to have the fire department come cut things out so we can get out.
More severe weather's in the forecast today in parts of Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, northern Florida, and South Carolina. A police officer responding to reports of shots fired in Roseville, Minnesota, is seriously wounded. The gunman is dead, shot after firing at police and neighboring homes. Roseville is a suburb of Minneapolis and St. Paul, Minnesota. America's listening to Fox News.
Economists are warning that sanctions against Russia could cause unintended damage in America, triggering devastating inflation. As gas prices skyrocket, prices for everything could surge even higher, making the current 40-year record inflation look mild. Hi, this is Stephen K. Bannon, and I urge you to take immediate action to protect your savings by opening a physical gold IRA with my friends at Birch Gold. I'm Birch Gold customer myself, and they have my highest recommendation. Just text the word PROTECT to 989898, and they'll send you a free info kit on how to get started. In my opinion, gold IRAs are one of the best ways to protect your savings no matter what happens in America or around the world. And the best company to work with is Birch Gold. So text the word PROTECT to 989898 to get everything you need to know about protecting your savings with gold.
.939 The Eagle News Time with Robinson's Cleaners. Robinson's saves you time. It is 8:03, 43 and sunny right now in Columbia. In Jefferson City, the sun is shining. It's 42 degrees. Good morning, and here are some of the stories that we are working on for you. In this 8 o'clock hour, voters in Columbia Public Schools have given the green light to an $80 million bond issue. It will fund construction of 2 elementary schools, 2 new schools. The bond issue will fund a $25 million new elementary school on the John Warner Middle School property, and then another $28 million for land and a future elementary school on a location yet to be determined. CPS Superintendent Dr. Brian Yearwood and I spoke late last night. He tells the Eagle he is elated.
Parents want to bring their scholars to our school district, and we want to welcome them and allow them to be in spaces where they are not feeling overcrowded or crammed into hallways and things like that.
The bond issue will also fund a $15 million addition and renovation at the Columbia Area Career Center. The superintendent says growth is the main reason behind the bond issue. CPS now Missouri's 5th largest district, 18,500 students. He expects that to grow to about 20,000 in the next 10 years. Meantime, the superintendent in fast-growing Southern Boone R1 in Ashland is thanking voters there for approving a $3 million bond issue. It's aimed at improving aging district facilities. Officials tell us the money will be used to resurface the track, install new artificial turf, and replace the scoreboard and sound system. Now, the track in Ashland at the high school is more than 20 years old. It has water issues, holds the water due to drainage issues, and because of that, the track teams cannot host meets or conferences. Measure approved by a vote of 1,677 to 628, passage requiring a 4/7 majority. Columbia voters have elected former city sustainability manager Barbara Buffalo is the next mayor. She receives 8,528 votes, beating businessman Randy Minshew. He had 7,728 votes in the election. Columbia School Board member David Seaman coming in third with 2,930 votes. Ms. Buffalo is focusing on investing in the community. Her other big priority is a homeless shelter, a 24/7 homeless shelter here in town. Voters in Columbia's 3rd Ward won't know who their councilman will be until at least next week. We have a tie in that election between incumbent Carl Scala and challenger Roy Lovelady. Actually, 2 ties in Boone County elections. The big one, the 3rd Ward race in Columbia. We also had a tie for the trustee position in the town of McBain. A lot of big elections decided as well. Jefferson City.
Jack Deacon is the new Jefferson City 1st Ward councilman. He defeated Jacob Robinette. Erin Wiseman retains her 3rd Ward seat, beating former councilman Bob Scrivener. Jefferson City sewer bond issue passes easily. Erica Leonard and Ann Blemke Warren elected to Jefferson City School Board. John Weber and Glenn Reynolds win election to the board at Blair Oaks and Wardsville. The Taos election rules ballot issue passes, and a school bond issue passes in Eugene. Holt Summit Mayor Landon Oxley reelected, and both the Holt Summit and North Callaway Fire District tax levies have passed. John Marsh, 93.9 The Eagle.
All right, John, thank you. And our 93.9 The Eagle News is brought to you this hour by the Callaway Bank. The Callaway Bank is with you for the moments that matter. 93.9 The Eagle News Time, 8:06. In sports, Cardinal baseball, we are about ready to start the 2022 season. The Cardinals and the Pittsburgh Pirates. Every time I think of the Pirates, I think of Chuck Tanner and Willie Stargell, Kent DeColvey, and John the Candyman Candelaria. They don't have that group of people around. They're still a pretty good team. They're not going to be 1979 and Dave Parker out in right field by any means. Cardinals and the Pirates tomorrow. 3:15, the first pitch. Adam Wainwright on the hill for the Cardinals, and you'll hear it right here on 93.9. The Eagle, not just that game, every single game, day and night, weekend and weekday. Your home of the Cardinals right here in Columbia, FM 93.9. The Eagle. Our sports is also brought to you this hour by the Callaway Bank. 93.9 The Eagle News Time, 8:07. All right, Kevin, thanks so much. Great job as always, not just on radio with us, but television with Molly as well today. Sunshine, 44. Traffic check, midmohires.com. Local companies are looking for local people. Midmohires.com to find a job or post your job opening today. For you folks who live in Cooper County, the Billingsville area, and Pilot Grove, you may see some surveyors out and about this morning. I talked to the National Weather Service this morning. I thought the EMA folks would go out, check to see if it was straight line winds or a tornado. So you may see something. If you notice any extra damage that we have missed just because it was dark last night, let us know. We will add that to our stories as well. 573-874-9390. More team coverage in less than 30 minutes. We'll have breaking news immediately. I'm Brian Hauswirth, the 93.9 The Eagle.
Barbara Buffalo wins over Randy Minshew, David Seaman, and Tanya Heath.
Close race, though. I'm bummed out Randy Minshew didn't win. Barbara Buffalo, next mayor of Columbia. Brian Treese, he's still there for, almost 2 weeks?
Yeah, the way it should work out, they had a council meeting Monday night, Branden, so it would be 2 weeks from Monday, and technically there would be two meetings. He would preside over the first one, kind of a lame duck session, if you will, fairly short. And then the way it should work, they should pause, have a judge come in and swear in Ms. Buffalo, the new council members, at least one. I don't know about the other one, but that'd be the middle of the month.
So Barbara Buffalo, she'll be, and she's a very nice person. Matter of fact, here's what gets us respect, or here's what I think I respect whenever we have people on the show, that even though we're of different political ideologies, they will still come on and have fun with us, because it is still important, even though we don't agree with what they're saying. If you're an elected official, it's still important to hear from these people. And I've always appreciated that about Barbara. And I hope she's not pulling a Josh Hawley or an Eric Greitens, where we help these folks. They come in and campaign on the radio station all the time, but then they get elected into office. Not a peep. Come on, Barbara. Well, we've had a great relationship with Barbara, and I'm hoping to have Columbia's second female history in the history of our city. Hoping to have her on before 9 o'clock.
That's a great point. Marianne McCollum was but that would be number 2. You're right.
And then the interesting thing: school board race last year, 25,000 people voted in the school board race. This year, 40,000 people voted in the school board race. 1 year ago, State Senator Caleb Branden said, right next door to us where we are physically located with the Zimmer Radio Worldwide headquarters, Caleb Branden said, next year we can win on the issues, the big issue, education, education, education. Unfortunately, in Columbia, we got more of the same. Blake Willoughby, again, a nice guy. But it's more of that same mindset. And he actually got fewer votes. The incumbent got fewer votes than Suzette Waters. I was hoping for Adam Burks and Andrea Lisenby. Neither one of those fared well, so we got more of the same.
The other, and to your point about the people who won, the candidates who won on the school board race, as I mentioned to Stephanie off air, I was a little surprised, and I don't have a real good pulse on it right now because I'm in Columbia, but Mark Ellinger, longtime presiding commissioner in Cole County, he's on the radio every week, but longtime commissioner in Cole County, and he was on the ballot in the school board race, and I believe I looked at the ballot. It looked like he came in last place. That surprised me, and he had a kind of a similar platform to Lisenby and Gresham. There were some differences, but kind of similar. I was surprised by that.
And I want to see school districts around the state of Missouri, and I think we saw a lot of hope in that we had 40,000 people vote in the school board election yesterday. And you know who knows this stuff? Scott Faughn, Missouri Times, joining us. I know you've been kind of poking around the state this morning, Scott. What have you been seeing as far as school boards? More of the same, a conservative change? What do you think?
It was very much geography. I really believe you look at Jeff City. I think that's an outlier. Brian Hauswirth will know Erica Leonard from his time in the Capitol.
Yes.
She was a terrific candidate. I really think Erica was such a good candidate. She cut against the normal tide. When you have someone that's that good, sometimes the overall trends and shifts don't really apply. And I think that's what happened with Erica. Throughout the state, you saw in St. Louis, my son is actually trapped in the Rockwood School District. He goes to Karl Marx Elementary. He had to have some mask shoved down his throat most of the year. There, I voted for the two most right-wing people I could find, and they won. They may be terrible school board members. I gave them both money. I just said, "Are you going to mask my son?" They said, "Nope, I'm with you." The other ones could be like, "Well, da-da-da-da-da." They lost. If you really picked on these kids with these masks for too long, you got kicked out. In places like Columbia, a very unique place. The People's Republic of Boone is a different place. I think folks would probably want to still send their kids to school in a mask, and you know what? Good for them. But I think you saw where folks like in St. Louis, where they pushed it really far, there was a backlash. In other places, parts of the state, I think you saw your normal, more community active people win.
It was the NEA
candidates,
right? I mean, it was the education establishment candidates in mid-Missouri that won. I think Springfield, though, they had pushback, and their slate of conservative candidates won. Is that right?
Well, how long did they mask people in Greene County? Good Lord, those poor people. It was like every day was Halloween. I think where people took it, where you took it way farther than the public was, there was a pushback. I also think in like Jefferson City, does anybody really care what the NEA is or no, or make a difference? They just don't. They didn't really know. That's not a big. I don't think Erica Leonard is going to be some left-wing NEA person. I think it was a pretty traditional school board race where a person who worked the hardest and was very involved in the community won. I think places where they took the mask stuff too far, the right-wing folks rose up and were like, leave our kids alone.
Yeah. But I think parents are still frustrated. I mean, I moved out of Jeff City in part because I was looking for better schools. So
Scott Faughn, Missouri Times, joining us this morning on Wake Up Columbia on 93.9 The Eagle, taking a look at a couple of things, kind of school board races around the state, seeing how that checked out. Also want to see, I ran into Cherie Tolson-Rice last night. It was about 10 o'clock and leaving a victory party. And there's Cherie Tolson-Rice, one of our local state reps, rolls up in her car. I'm like, what are you doing? You're late. She says, I know. Crazy night in Jeff City. Want to find out about that here shortly.
Yeah, thank you so much, Branden and Stephanie. Scott, it's always good to hear your voice, and I appreciate all the good work you and your publication do down there at the Missouri Times covering the Capitol. Kind of a broad question in general relating to the school board races, but a bill that I'm very interested in because I'm curious what's going to happen. Phil Cristofanelli, who you know very well from St. Peter's, will be a senior member in the House next year, but he's got a bill, as you know, Scott, to move school board races to basically from April to November. And I read the online testimony, and some of the supporters are saying that the teachers' unions, the NEA, is getting their people to the polls. I mean, they flat out say that. Others just feel like it'd be better for more people to be allowed to vote. Do you have any sense on if that bill's going to go through?
I think the schools are going to get a whack for doing the masking. Look, I mean, CRT is kind of a made-up thing to gin people up. It's very hard to define what it is. It's the normal thing. You'd see some interest group come out. Really, that is just something for charter schools to try to get money from public schools. I mean, if it's happening, it's bad, but it's one. You see those issues. It's a House issue to get attention. The House makes the news, Senate makes the laws. I think schools are going to have to take a hit, and because they've asked those kids too long, you took folks that normally just support and this is a rule thing. In Columbia, the Republicans will be kind of more right-wing, the Democrats more left-wing, kind of like the suburbs. In rural Missouri, folks support their schools. but they weren't going to stand for that mask stuff, and it riled parents up. There's going to be some law passed to punish schools. I don't know what that is. If schools are lucky, it'll be this kind of manufactured CRT thing. If they're not lucky, it's going to be something like moving school board elections in November. Personally, I think that's a tough one to fight back on because you do kind of want the best. You want the largest cross-section of people voting on your school board. I think that would have policies that probably reflect the community better. But, I mean, also, Republicans, instead of changing the rules, win races, right? Get better. Compete. Let the market decide, I guess you could say, right?
Scott Faughn joining us, Missouri Times, right on most things except for CRT. Joining us on the show this time.
Well, and Scott, you said the schools are going to get punished, but I don't think holding schools accountable means that we're punishing them. I mean, and I was really disappointed here with Adam Burks because he was the only one talking about, hey, look, let's open our eyes. Columbia Public Schools are failing. The test scores are horrible, which is exactly the same thing that's happening in Jeff City. That's why I moved, because the test scores are in the dumpster and they have no plan to fix it. And so I don't think by asking us to, by moving the election or by implementing open enrollment or charter schools that we're punishing the schools. I think we're holding them accountable for an absolutely, a failure of a job of educating our kids on, I think I saw you say the 3 R's, right?
Well, I mean, look, I guess when I say punish them, there's bills that generally the schools oppose, and I think they oppose moving the elections to November, and there'll be something passed that is they don't want to see passed, whether you call it punishment or not. I thought the open enrollment plan Brad Pollitt has made a lot of sense to me. You go to any public school, implementing charter schools. I mean, look, every fight in Jeff City is essentially about 2 rich people fighting over $1. And the charter schools have tons of lobbyists that are paid a lot of money. And I think they give the speaker a job. God knows he needed one, besides his Uber side hustle. And I think they're going to try to fight for every dollar they can get for their client. But I mean, really, that to me, the charter school argument is about who's going to make money. And I think that probably at the end of the day is something that you'll see schools that they're going to fight over that forever. The charter schools have money to hire lobbyists firms. It's going to be a fight forever. But I do think that the schools had never lost a fight because rural Missouri always held tight for schools until they did the masking. When they took this mask stuff too far, then everything else kind of caved in on them. They lost a bill last year, the first bill I've ever seen them lose. They're going to lose one this year. I don't know which one it's going to be, but it very well likely could be moving the elections to November. But also could be something more intricate of the open enrollment. That's a real complicated issue. Essentially, you could go to any public school you wanted to, but with some structure.
You said let the market decide, right?
I mean, if that's the theory, then let it decide, yeah.
All right, Scott Faughn, before we let you go, about a minute here, anything exciting at the Capitol yesterday, or maybe just more necessary, actually, than exciting?
You had more of the messy Greitens stuff come out. Yeah. You had the firefighters endorse Mike Kehoe, and then you had Trudy Bush here right before opening day, one of the most blessed days of the year. The Clydesdales will take the Bush tomorrow, and you had Gussie Bush's daughter making some moves. I mean, you can almost hear "Here Comes the King" playing.
Yeah, and that's something you and I should talk about some more in depth. That her candidacy for that U.S. Senate race, and might she have some middle of the road appeal that could put a damper on the GOP side? Scott Faughn, check out the Missouri Times when it comes to stuff in Jefferson City. As I said, this guy, you've seen the Eagles nest up there at the Capitol. If you're going down 63, you're pulling into Jefferson City, and you see our beautiful Capitol and the dome and the spire.
You've got a real chance to collect some of the non-domestic violence Republicans if she runs against Greitens in the fall.
All right, Scott Faughn, who lives in the tower in the Capitol in Jefferson City. Check out the Missouri Times. Hey, thanks, man. We'll catch up again real soon.
Thank you all. Appreciate it. Have a good morning.
All right, you too. Coming up, Morning Bell. I'm hoping you're going to follow this theme this week because now I'm interested.
Everyone is. I was at the hair salon yesterday. And a guy getting his haircut said, and knew that I was in conservative stuff, said, "Hey, did you hear about Elon?" And I said, "I sure did."
So Twitter. And the implications of that.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that and I haven't even read the script on the show yet, but I'm glad that's what's coming up in the Morning Bell business news with that little twist that only Stephanie Bell
Moving forward with Branden Rathert and Wake Up Columbia. 93.9 The Eagle.
That gets us into this morning's Morning Bell. Stephanie Bell, business news with that little twist that only Stephanie Bell can give you. It's a theme week this week, and the theme...
Elon Musk. It's not that with the twist that Stephanie Bell can give you. It's with the fangirling over Elon that only Stephanie can give you. But right now, I think the whole nation is kind of fangirling over Elon. He, had been kind of saying like, look, Twitter, is like basically today's public forum, and there, it really should be a place that respects free speech a little bit more, and these kinds of things. He ended up buying a 9%-ish stake in the company. He is going to tango a little bit with the SEC because there were some reporting deadlines that he missed. But now they offered him a seat on the board of directors, but he can't fully take over. So he gets the seat on the board of directors if he doesn't take I think he's limited to taking 14.2% of the company, which I think would prevent like a full takeover. But now he's kind of out there doing his own Twitter polls saying like, hey, what do you guys want? You want an edit button? What do you think about this? And I think it's giving people some hope. There are some folks that are banned that people would like to see back on Twitter. There are things like the edit button that, people would have been wanting for years. And Twitter stock is going through the roof, and, everyone's talking about Elon and Twitter.
And I'm wondering what that would do for some of the conservatives who tweet and get their stuff knocked off of Twitter because, it's not community standards. And the community standards of most of these social media groups is you think like we do, or else we are booting you off.
Well, and I think it's really interesting because a lot of people think like, let the market decide, right? And even on our show, you look at the different tech platforms, and we've been banned on YouTube, but we really haven't had a problem elsewhere, even though we use the other ones. And so at some point, are the big tech companies going to start competing with one another to make sure that their policies are like more consistent? And so if Twitter becomes this open space, would that encourage other folks to be a little bit more lenient as far as what they allow to be on their platforms? I don't know the answer to that.
Plus the edit button. 874-9390, 874-9390. John, I've got about 30 seconds here for you. What can we do for you?
Well, I just wanted to give you a big shout out on the CRT comment that guy made, because from what you've produced, and I support you 100% on the fight against the CRT in the schools. And the fact that he said that charter schools are created this hoax on CRT shows me that I may not want to read his material. You have more knowledge about this than him, and you keep up the fight because we need it, Branden.
And we need to fight harder next time. Maybe we'd pick up some wins in these elections, local elections. John, we appreciate the phone call on behalf of everybody here. Wake Up Columbia, man. We appreciate your kind words. Coming up, good news for recent college graduates everywhere, including, the producer. And today is the final day for this kind of an interesting thing. It's on our website. I want to tell you about that as we get ready for the Boone County Lincoln Days coming up this Feel Good Friday. Good morning. This is Wake Up Columbia.
Fox News, I'm Lillian Wu. Western nations are getting ready to hit Russia with more sanctions as its forces continue targeting civilians in Ukraine.
Russian forces retreating from the north, preparing to double down on the east. Ukraine's Minister of Defense says that Russian forces are adding new pressure to defenders who are surrounding and defending Mariupol, that eastern city where humanitarian aid and evacuations were once again blocked yesterday.
Fox's Alex Hogan in Lviv.
Long food lines are also forming in Ukraine's second largest city of Kharkiv. President Volodymyr Zelensky today accusing Russia of using hunger as a weapon of war.
And Oklahoma Governor Kevin Stitt expected to sign a near total ban on abortion. It was passed by the state legislature. Abortions would only be allowed if the mother's life is in danger. A legal fight is expected. America's listening to Fox News.
And now award-winning local news coverage with Brian Hauswirth on 93.9 The Eagle.
93.9 The Eagle News Time with Robinson's Cleaners. Robinson saves you time. It is 8:31. We do have sunshine here in Columbia, and we have cleared off. We're going to see sunshine for most of the day today. Our high will be into the upper 50s. 45 right now in Columbia, 43 in Jefferson City. Great to have you with us. Good morning. Here's some of the stories we are working on for you at this hour. Former Columbia Sustainability Manager Barbara Buffalo has been elected as the city's new mayor.
Ms. Buffalo received 8,528 votes, beating businessman Randy Minshew, who had 7,728 votes. Columbia School Board member David Seaman came in third with 2,930 votes. Mayor-elect Buffalo campaigned on investing in our community and resourcing community partners with proven track records. Mr. Minshew focused on public safety and getting back to the basics on issues like infrastructure. Buffalo will be sworn in as Columbia's mayor this month. Don Luzader, 93.9 The Eagle.
Don, thank you. Meantime, voters in Columbia and Boone County have approved local use tax ballot measures. A little closer, the vote in the county, 15,278 in favor, 13,157 against. Supporters of the measure say Boone County is the last county among contiguous counties to approve a use tax, a sales tax on online sales. Dave Griggs, the former Boone County commissioner who chairs the Yes on Prop 1 committee in the county, says Boone County lost $3.7 million to untaxed online sales in 2020. It will be at least next week before we know who won Columbia's hotly contested Third Ward Council race. Scala and Lovelady end up tying in the race, 1,102 votes apiece. And coming up today at noon, Representative Cherie Tolson-Reich-Hallsville will testify before the General Assembly, a committee, about her bill to allow Secretary Ashcroft to inspect the voter rolls of any election authority. 93.9 The Eagle News, brought to you this hour by Hemi Construction. It's 8:33. Turning our attention now to sports here on 93.9 The Eagle, 93.9theeagle.com. It's 8:33. Cardinal baseball coming up tomorrow today. Kind of a day for the team and the players, the manager, to get ready. A new era, obviously, in St. Louis. Opening day is always a big day. You hope for good weather. If anything, it will be chilly, but I don't see any precipitation in the forecast tomorrow. So that game will be getting underway. Dan McLaughlin is reporting, the Cardinal voice at Fox Sports Midwest, that there'll be a lot of Hall of Famers there at that location. The Clydesdales are going to be there as well, according to Dan. 3:15, the first pitch on the radio right here on 93.9 The Eagle. Tom Ackerman will handle the pregame coverage, and Rick Horton and Mike Claiborne will have the call for you with John Rooney tomorrow afternoon. 93.9 The Eagle News Time, 8:34. Traffic check with MidmoHires.com. Local companies are looking for local people. MidmoHires.com. Find a job, post your job opening today. Our roads right now are pretty quiet here in mid-Missouri. If you have a traffic issue, give us a call or a text, 573-874-9390. More team coverage in less than 30 minutes, and we have breaking news immediately. I'm Brian Hauswirth, 93.9 The Eagle.
Thank you. Vice President Biden, Vice President.
Kind of funny, kind of uncomfortable. That happened at the White House yesterday. Barack Obama making his first visit in over 5 years. Hadn't been there since the day he ushered in Mr. DJT. So he goes. They're saying it was about health care. It was a campaign visit amidst sagging poll numbers, inflation, regretful Biden voters, all that. It wasn't about health care. I think it was. I think it was a campaign stop. Right?
Yeah, they need something, and people are like, "Remember, Democrats can do good things. We had a win 12 years ago, even though we haven't had any in the last however many months."
So, yes. So he's telling that joke. Obama's twice jokes about Vice President Joe Biden. Of course, the funny thing is, Obama's forgetful, and because he used to be, Joe Biden used to be vice president, but it's kind of uncomfortable because it is not beyond the realm of possibility to think Joe's not running the country.
No, he's definitely not.
He's not doing it, and it was almost like Because, sometimes, listen, people make fun of me for all kinds of things, and I'll tease people about stuff. I try to be careful because I think I have a decent sense of humor about my stuff. I don't get triggered. I don't get hurt by any of that stuff when people uses words against me. That stuff doesn't bother me. They're words. That's all they are, just words. But, on occasion when somebody might say something about you, and you get really uncomfortable and you can't hide it, and you get kind of that awkward kind of, and you can. That's what it looked like right next to Joe Biden. And then it got worse for Joe yesterday. There's some phenomenal video out there. You got to check this out.
I haven't seen it yet.
I think that what stuck out to me is not just that, but it was unusual in the positioning of how they set up where former President Obama was. He was at a podium, and then standing next to him off to his right was Vice President Harris, and then former Vice President, now President Biden. I would have thought the president would have been right next to him, but they had the current Vice President Harris there, and he went from the podium over to kind of give him a hug. It looked like a lot of that was off script.
And so here's the video you gotta look for him. It's worth checking out. I saw the story. I'm like, okay, I don't want to dump on Joe, but I'll check it out. Oh my God! So at this event yesterday, you've got everybody's up and they're wanting to talk to Barack Obama. Nobody's wanting to talk to the president or the vice president, as Barack Obama had called him minutes earlier. And two things. I get this. I feel bad for Joe. Lil JJ feels bad for Joe Biden this morning. Here's why. I don't like being in crowds of people for two reasons. Number one, I'm socially awkward and I'm shy. And Stephanie will attest to this, and Hannah will attest to this. I don't like being around a bunch of people because I'm nervous and shy. People think, oh, you got to be confident. I'm not. I'm the exact opposite. So when you're in a big crowd of people, number one, I can't hear because people are mumbling. I hear the mumble. If you're talking to me, I'm just going, uh-huh.
That's what you're doing anyway, Branden.
Yeah.
Come on.
But then if you're in
a background noise, it's hard.
Yeah.
It really is.
If you're in a big crowd of people and everybody's getting together and you can't, because there's people that will butt in on a conversation, which I think is incredibly rude, by the way. But, oh, what are y'all talking about? Well, none of your damn business. I think it's incredibly rude.
But it's so awkward to be that person who's repelled. I imagine how two magnets when you put them the wrong way and it's just like Joe Biden flies to all over and he can't even get the folks in that state to stand on the stage with him because they're like, dude, I do not want a picture. I do not want to be seen with you. And it's almost like that. He's at that party and there's a bubble around him and people are like, don't get too close to me, please. I don't want to be seen with you.
As I watched it, I do remember, and I was thinking more of a history perspective here. I do remember when candidate Barack Obama, who was a U.S. senator at the time, came here to Columbia. It was right before the election. He drew a huge crowd over at Mizzou. To the best of my knowledge, I don't remember President Obama visiting Columbia as president. However, I know he went to Macon. He went to Macon and spoke at the Poet Biorefining. And he stopped, I remember, and just some of the listeners, I was working in Moberly, some of the listeners, and they were primarily Republican, but they were happy he came by because they wanted to meet the president. He stopped at Peggy Sue's Cafe. I don't even know if it's there anymore. Peggy Sue's Cafe in Monroe City. And one thing about former President Obama, he was known to, he liked to stop at these diners. He'd go off script and stop, and the media would follow him, and he did. So I thought about that. But I don't remember him coming. I could be wrong on this. I don't remember him as president coming here to Columbia. Definitely as candidate for sure.
He was on campus. I was in law school at the time, and I remember there were a lot of people,
was that
academic institutions tend to be,
right?
Yeah, tend to be really liberal, and there are a lot of people who are really excited. I boycotted and studied in the law library. I did not attend.
Fist bump, buddy. I'm going to nominate you for a winner of the week coming up on a Feel Good Friday. This is Wake Up Columbia. Brian Hauswirth, Stephanie Taco Bell, and Hannah, the producer.
She's going to hit you again.
I know. She told us a story this morning, and here's what made me pay attention. She said first, I don't know if I should tell this story. Go on.
I don't like telling family stories about when I haven't asked first, and some people will say that to me now. Don't repeat this on the radio. But this was from childhood. But yeah, my brother-in-law did not like to be called Johnny Bell because Johnny Taco Bell. and instead he wanted to be Johnny Jaguar.
Hey, before we move to some other important things that are happening in Washington, D.C., I want to highlight this off the text. Brian Hauswirth and our good friend Cosmo from Y107 doing weather coverage. So we're getting ready for election stuff. We're at election parties trying to bring results. Then all of a sudden weather goes south. And Brian Hauswirth and Cosmo making sure that people were staying informed. Ray, text 874-9390, says, I was able to keep abreast of the storm last night by listening to the 93.9 The Eagle app. Keeps us updated and greatly appreciated. I think that's a cool thing about a local radio station that has local people in the building, because not too many other places really. I mean, if you're out and about and you're in your car, it's Zimmer radio. It's like, hey, here's what's going on. Here's what you need to know. And that's one of the things when we say live local radio, that's what we're talking about. So many, last night, listen, I'm in my car and I'm going to an election party thing, and and I'm like, oh yeah, I got to go to a Zimmer station if I want to hear what's happening in the radio. That's what we mean by local.
I was mayoring, and everyone's phone gets that buzzer, and so I'm like, okay, do we have a procedure if there's a tornado when we're in the middle of the meeting? I'm like, I'm going to keep rolling as long as you guys tell me I can. But I felt so much comfort when I got in my car and it just started raining and I heard Brian Hauswirth's voice, and I said, okay, Brian, are we going to be okay? And he's like, okay, no tornado warning for Boone. It should blow over here shortly, but I was glad to hear his voice.
Now, Stephanie, is mayoring the official term?
Definitely.
Awesome.
I love that. Stephanie got to be mayor yesterday in Ashland. What did you do under your regime?
We passed the budget.
Oh, good work.
Getting work done.
We had a lot. We're doing developments where we've got a new farmers market coming to Ashland. That's really excited with so lots of projects and exciting developments.
There's a lot of things happening there. I think, these things with the school bond issues, that was kind of hard for me. And I knew he was going to pass, but I voted no. And while I'm voting no in my precinct there at the Elks Lodge, I'm like, man, screw these little kids.
Hey, I'm just saying, somebody on Facebook said, living in Columbia is like dealing with an ex. You just keep being disappointed. We're building a lot of houses and we got really good schools in Ashland. So if you're tired of messing around in Columbia with that ex and you're looking for a new boyfriend,
give Ashland a try. Swipe left or right or whichever way you're supposed to swipe on those things.
You swipe right.
You swipe right on Ashland, baby.
There we go.
And I would imagine, because this is a for real thing, people leaving Columbia to go to live in other specifically school districts. Unfortunately, school board in Columbia last night, we got more of the same. Okay, so back to Washington, D.C. And here's why this stuff, I think, matters. Stephanie and I, for over a year now, within weeks of being in the White House, China told us to our face, you're not coming at us from a position of strength anymore. This was after Mr. Trump left the presidency. Remember that America First stuff that people whined and complained about? Well, this is what we have now. So we've highlighted, and actually, I think I might play it again because I think it is worth highlighting. Here's a couple things I want to explain in my mind why they're important. It's to things that Stephanie and I have been talking about for a long time. First, Jen Psaki, yesterday, White House, she's being asked a question by a reporter, and the question is basically, hey, poor ratings, all this stuff, is this all your fault?
His approval rating, when he came into office last year, he was around 60% and even more, and now he's around 40% and sometimes less. Who does he blame now? Putin, Trump, or you?
So, great question. Who does he blame now? Putin? Trump? You? Great question, because everything, it's been everybody else's fault. Nobody, these are like little kids not taking responsibility for what they're doing or trying to find a solution, and I have proof of that. What are you paying for gasoline? What are you paying for groceries? Okay, there's my proof. And here's something else you can tell people. So I'm watching this video, and it's a great question. I'm really having to watch closely because I'm having to read the dude's lips because I don't hear so well. And his lanyard says News Africa. Here's why that is important. You have a reporter from another continent in the White House yesterday asking the United States of America, what the hell are you guys doing? That is our view. on a worldwide stage.
Well, and I think yesterday we talked about, local governments and that, we had the luxury to argue about masks and we have the luxury to argue about roll carts because we're not worried about the really serious things. And when I think about on the national and the international level, when Trump was the president, we had, we talked about this. We had the luxury to not know what the price of gas was, to not know what the price of bacon was. I didn't have to work. It's not something I thought about. I didn't know what the price of gas was because it was low and it was fine. And we were worried about other things. I didn't have to work. Like every time I saw some sort of like international news, I didn't get that sinking feeling like, oh, this could be really bad when Trump was a president, because I knew that we would respond with strength and I was confident in our leadership. And now we don't have that luxury anymore. I have to worry about the price at the grocery store. I have to worry about the price at the pump. I have to worry about any time any other country does anything. I mean, we even made France mad. I mean, so, and now, I have this unsettling feeling that I wake up with in the morning that I didn't have 2 years ago.
You're right. Like, I'm paying attention to and I've never done that. I don't pay attention. I got to have it.
You don't. You don't.
That's why I own 3 pairs of jeans that cost $100. I didn't know they cost $100.
See, sometimes you say that your memory is bad, but I think a lot of it comes back to you don't pay attention.
Yeah.
So then you don't retain it.
There is that too. I'm not good at paying attention to details. I'm a big picture person. Hey, I want to do a radio show in Columbia, Missouri. You all handle the details, but this is what I want to do. So it is. I'm paying attention to how much stuff costs, and I've never had to do that before, and I can't imagine for these regretful Biden voters, especially ones, let's say, on a different end of an income scale that some of us are on. Like, I'm having to watch what I'm paying for, but I'm going to be okay. And that's not the case for anybody. And these are people that voted for Biden, and they're going, what? I voted for you, said it was going to be rainbows and unicorns. So if you are one of those, you're regretful. We are not here to make fun of you today. That's not what we're doing. We're not here to criticize you. What we are saying is, welcome. We're glad you're here. And you can tell people, listen, if you're a newish listener to 93.9 The Eagle and Wake Up Columbia, and if you still hang out with friends and they go, oh, you're a conservative or whatever, you don't even have to say I'm conservative or GOP or Republican. You don't have to say that. What you can say is, no, I'm just educating myself. I'm getting smarter. I'm learning what American values are. Me being in marketing and stuff, branding. Instead of calling it conservative values, why don't we call it American values? That's all. Coming up, anything interesting for leftovers that's striking your craw? Anything besides election stuff? Hannah, you got it? I think we should go back to the baseball thing. What's hot with Hannah? New way to cheat in Major League Baseball, and it's a way to prevent cheating, but it's a new way to cheat.
Or we could talk about people with student loans.
Oh, good. How many times has Branden teased that today?
At least twice.
And I'll reveal the reason why a lot of folks are mad at Hannah and Stephanie. That's coming up at 8:53 on 93.9 The Eagle. Them out, especially here. One of the things that we hear, it's a fairly common thing. You have a septic tank, you take care of it. But there's people that, let's say they're moving out of Columbia city limits because they want a better school district. Let's say they move out in a rural area. Now they have a septic tank. Okay, that's great. And some of these people think, well, you service your septic tank whenever the yard starts bubbling up. No, no, that's not how it works. Here's how it works. You call Pro Pumping and Hydrojetting. You say, hey, we got a septic tank. Ideally, I want to be on some kind of maintenance program so that I never have big issues. That's what you do if you have a septic tank. You call Pro Pumping and Hydrojetting. By the way, they drain lagoons, too. They do some remarkable work. You can see a lot of the work that they do by going onto their website, pro-pumping.com.
An eye on the nation, an eagle eye on mid-Missouri. Wake Up Columbia with Branden Rathert. 93.9 The Eagle.
The other candidates in this race, we have run a clean campaign. All five. It's been an honor to serve with them, to go through this very interesting process.
Mayor-elect in Columbia, Barbara Buffalo, last night in front of the Columbia Daily Tribune and some of her supporters last night. Welcome into the show. This is Wake Up Columbia at 874-9390, 874-9390. Before we move forward into some leftovers, want to remind you, you go to our...
This is where you get in trouble.
All right, let me do this then.
Here's a big old serving of leftovers on 93.9 The Eagle. Enjoy.
I was going to mention our GOP Senate primary poll on the website. We'll unveil those results tomorrow. You can still vote today. Go to our website, 93.9 The Eagle. If the election, the Senate election were today, who would you vote for in the primary? Interesting to see how that will shake out. To see, okay, stuff with Greitens, has that changed anything? Attorney General Eric Schmidt going after the Title 42 thing. Does that boost his standing in the race? One of the things we'll try to find out tomorrow. Want to share this text. Thanks, Dave. Just saw a bumper sticker I like. It says, I'm inconsistent, but not always. Points. Leftovers also, college, because some listeners are mad, by the way, at the two young ladies hanging out in the studio with me this morning.
If that's true, I feel like it might be slightly misguided, but it's fine.
We'll review why. Biden extending the moratorium on student loans.
Yes, and I am very excited about that.
You should not be excited. You still have to pay it back. So just like delaying it, rip the Band-Aid off and start paying. Your older self will thank you later.
But here's the thing, Steph. My boyfriend and I, we're in the process of trying to get our first place together and figuring out finances. So it's just nice that we can get our crap together and then start paying later.
No. Because you'll think later we'll have all this money and we'll do all these things. And then you'll have a house and you'll have kids. Now I'm going to get one of my kids needs braces. There is always something. Just start paying, because the sooner you get that paid off, the better.
You're paying for braces?
I'm going to, and I
did it.
Terrified.
Oh, boy, that's going to be fun. Hannah, may your children never have to get braces.
Okay.
But if they need them, straight teeth, look at these. Thank you, Mom and Dad.
Yeah, if your kids, get braces. All right, okay. So last night I talked to a bunch of people, and I at the Randy Minshew victory party, and I had more than one person say, I get really mad and frustrated at Hannah, and I get frustrated with Stephanie, and I said, well, how come? Because I've got everybody's back on the show. I will fight tooth and nail for anybody here on this show, and I mean that.
Because they let Branden talk so much. Oh, my gosh.
I'll especially fight tooth and nail for my own selfish. No, I always have you guys back. But they get mad because I'll say, hey, we're going to talk about college student loans being deferred another few months. We'll do that at 7:35. And then I forget because these two aren't reminding me, and that's why they're mad at you guys.
Give me a break.
I highly doubt that this conversation took place.
Check with Rick Rowden. He will fact check me on this.
Way.
Gary Nolan's show is coming up next year on 93.9 The Eagle. See ya.
Bye.